What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories.
5AF. Chapter 78, All Jinchuriki. Fusuke starts the killing. Advertisement. Seeing Sarutobi Hiruzen's behavior, even Shimura Danzo, who thought he was ruthless, couldn't help but feel palpitations. At this moment, Danzo recalled what Sarutobi Hiruzen had just said to the self-destruction duo. Hiruzen, junior brothers and sisters, when the time comes, you will bring all the detonating talismans, trap the enemy in the hole and then detonate it. At the critical moment, the teacher will definitely take action to rescue you. Kaharu. Brother, why don't you go? Hiruzen. How could you think that? I'm so disappointed, Haru-chan. Hiruzen. I'm thinking about you all. Once this trick is used, it will have no effect if you use it again. I couldn't bear to see you fighting and facing danger. I came up with this method. Hiruzen. For you, Danzo and I donated all the detonating talismans. Kaharu. I'm sorry, senior brother, I misunderstood you. Thank you so much, senior brother. Homura. It's great to have senior brother Hiruzen here. Looking at the remaining half of the Golden Horn and Silver Horn troops, in the distance. Sarutobi Hiruzen turned to Danzo beside him and said. It's time for us to deal with the remaining enemies. After hearing what Sarutobi Hiruzen said, Danzo did not hesitate. He took out his blade and carefully followed Sarutobi Hiruzen a few meters behind. The two of them did not choose to foolishly charge towards the Golden Horn and Silver Horn troops. Instead, he chose to make noise to attract the remaining members of the Golden Horn and Silver Horn troops into the forest. Ouch! Over there, a member of the Golden Horn and Silver Horn force, with a ferocious expression roared and discovered the noise caused by Sarutobi Hiruzen and Shimura Danzo. So, dozens of people swarmed forward and plunged into the forest. From a distance, the Golden Horn and Silver Horn brothers looked a little ugly when they saw this scene. Hateful. These two, crazy batches. It takes a lot of effort to train these guys. I killed 10 of them at once. Silver Horn complained to Golden Horn next to him. Why? Wait until this is over, then go back to the village to find a new test subject. Jin Zhao shook his head helplessly and comforted Yin Zhao. Of course, the two of them would understand Sarutobi Hiruzen's simple tactic of luring the enemy. But while the two of them were talking like this, they had no intention of chasing back the dozen or so people who broke into the forest. I don't know if they don't care about the life and death of their subordinates, or they are full of confidence in the creations they have cultivated. Somewhere, the cold man with silver hair just observed everything silently, with an unreadable depth in his eyes. In the forest, Sarutobi Hiruzen and Shimura Danzo fled separately, and then finally reunited. After they met, they suddenly turned around at the same time and leaned against each other in a back-to-back position. Behind them, there were 7 or 8 pursuers each. Seeing these 7 or 8 pursuers, Sarutobi Hiruzen and Shimura Danzo had a smug sneer on their lips at the same time. They never expected that the plan would go so smoothly. It turned out that the two of them had already laid a large number of traps in the forest. Under the cover of heavy rain, these traps are even more difficult to detect. At present, this group of Golden Horn and Silver Horn troops have already entered the coverage area of the trap without knowing it at all. Whoosh. X2. As a result, Sarutobi Hiruzen and Shimura Danzo accurately threw a shuriken at the same time, triggering the mechanism that had been buried earlier. Shwashwashua. Blades all over the sky were mixed in the heavy rain, shooting out like raindrops, aiming directly at the members of the Golden Horn and Silver Horn troops. Chi-chi. For a while, the sound of iron being penetrated into flesh could be heard continuously. Under the dense cover of iron weapons, these pursuers were directly covered with hidden weapons, turning into a group of iron hedgehogs. Seeing this, Sarutobi Hiruzen and Shimura Danzo put away their alert posture at the same time. In their view, no one can survive being stabbed like a hedgehog by a hidden weapon. Just when the two of them breathed a sigh of relief and were about to leave. Suddenly, roar. A roar like a wild beast came from a dozen iron hedgehogs. I saw these iron hedgehogs struggling hard at the same time. Whoosh. The blades originally stuck on their bodies were blown away in all directions, revealing the skin hidden under the hedgehog hair. A scarlet coat like lava was seen flowing on their bodies. This coat is filled with a sense of evil viscosity, which makes people feel uncomfortable when they see it. As an experienced ninja, neither Sarutobi Hiruzen nor Shimura Danzo are newbies. They recognized at a glance that the gold-horned and silver-horned troops were wearing the tailed beast coat. Under the background of this tailed beast coat, these members of the Golden Horns and Silver Horns troops suddenly looked like hungry ghosts in hell, extremely terrifying. The so-called tailed beast outerwear. It is a coat formed by Jinchuriki using tailed beast chakra, which is attached to the body surface. This coat is not only extremely defensive, but also highly corrosive and high temperature. Obviously, all the traps carefully set by Sarutobi Hiruzen and Shimura Danzo just now fell on this beast coat. Advertisement. But it did not harm the members of the Golden Horn and Silver Horn troops themselves at all. How can it be? How come there are so many Jinchuriki in Cloud Shinobi? Sarutobi Hiruzen shouted in disbelief, his eyes filled with dullness. Not only him, but Danzo on the side was also dumbfounded, with a look of dumbfounded expression on his face. And on the opposite side of the two people, a member of the Golden Horn and Silver Horn troop silently took out a small bottle containing a bright red liquid from his arms, unscrewed the cap and poured it into his mouth and drank it all. After drinking the unknown red liquid, his eyes instantly turned red, and the tailed beast coat on his body became a little thicker again. Quote exclamation mark quote. Accompanied by a beast's roar. The members of the Golden Horn and Silver Horn troops wearing tailed beast clothes all got down on all fours and attacked Sarutobi Hiruzen and Shimura Danzo like wild beasts. Sarutobi Hiruzen and Shimura Danzo, who had no time to continue being shocked, could only use their special skills to fight against the enemy. But helpless. The Golden Horn and Silver Horn troops already have an absolute advantage in numbers. Moreover, covered by the tailed beast outfit, most of Sarutobi Hiruzen and Shimura Danzo's attacks are immune to and blocked by the tailed beast outfit. What's even worse is that these guys are all like wild beasts, not only very manic but also fearless of death. Under the siege of this group of fake Jinchuriki, the two of them could only flee in embarrassment, without the ability to fight at all. In the distance, I heard the sound of monk roars, coming and going in the forest. Brothers Jinjiao and Silverjiao showed a satisfied smile at the same time. At the same time, Jin Zhao took out a transparent vial from his arms, then cut his finger and filled the vial with his own blood. After this battle is over, it seems another wave of bloodletting is inevitable. I think it's better to prepare in advance. While Jin Zhao was bleeding himself, he spoke to Yin Zhao beside him. Hearing the sound, Yin Zhao seemed calm and unhurried. Don't worry, wait until these consumables are used up this time. There is probably not much left in his lifespan. I will wait until the next batch of new consumables are ready before bleeding. Yin Zhao said lazily, with a flash of disinterest in his eyes. 2. Hearing this, Jin Zhao also stopped his bloodletting action. Turn out to be the so-called Golden Horn and Silver Horn force are not just an elite ninja force. They are also the guinea pig troops of the two brothers Jinjiao and Yinjiao. Many years ago, the brothers Golden Horn and Silver Horn were swallowed by Nine Tails by chance. Thanks to their strong bloodline, the brothers survived by devouring the flesh and blood of Nine Tails. After getting out of trouble, the two miraculously possess abilities comparable to Jinchuriki and share the power within Nine Tails. Since then, the two brothers have possessed monster-like powers. Later, as ambition gradually expanded, the two brothers were unwilling to stop there. They began to secretly study how to share and spread the power of Nine Tails. After some brutal and bloody experiments, the two brothers finally found a way. Using the blood of gold and silver horns as the medium, they can spread the power of Nine Tails in themselves to other ninjas. But the side effects of doing so are also extremely obvious. As long as you drink the blood of the Golden Horn and Silver Horn brothers, you can use this power of Nine Tails. Not only will their lifespan be greatly reduced, but their sanity will gradually fade away and they will degenerate into beast-like monsters. And this is the truth behind the all Jinchuriki of the Golden Horn and Silver Horn troops. There is no doubt about the power of Nine Tails. This is why the two brothers, Golden Horn and Silver Horn, have full confidence in their men. Therefore, the two of them were not in any hurry to take action, but just chatted in the background. Just when Jin Zhao looked proud and was thinking about the future to Yin Zhao. If you ask me, once we kill Senju Tobirama, we will. Suddenly, his expression suddenly changed. Silver Horn, be careful. Jin Zhao immediately shouted at Yin Zhao. Hearing the sound, Yin Zhao's expression changed drastically and he turned his head suddenly. Zitsa. What caught Yin Zhao's eyes was a pair of scarlet eyes full of murderous intent and a dazzling purple electric light. The person who suddenly appeared was none other than Fusuke, who had been lurking for a long time using Earth style. Taking advantage of the distraction of Jin Zhao and Yin Zhao, he chose to speak directly. Aha! With the turning of the scarlet pinwheel in Fusuke's right eye, the illusion of Kyoka Suigetsu has been cast on Ginkaku's body. Ginkaku's originally horrified pupils instantly became dull, apparently having fallen into the control of the Mangekyo illusion. Please give me flowers. There was no hesitation. Fusuke waved his right palm with a purple electric light, and thrust it straight into the back of Ginkaku, whose face was dull, with one movement. Lightning style. Reikiri. Advertisement. It was hit by the S-class lightning style without any precautions. Even if Silver Horn carries the Six Paths bloodline, there is absolutely no possibility of survival. But something strange happened. Yin Zhao's eyes, which were originally trapped in an illusion and could not move, quickly regained their clarity. On the contrary, the expression on the side of Jin Zhao became a little dull. Roar. At the moment of life and death, Yin Zhao only had time to let out a beast's roar. The scarlet-tailed beast chakra continuously spurted out from Silverhorn's body. A layer of blood-red coat covered Silverhorn's body. A red room with thick wooden strips also appeared behind him. This is not a simple tailed beast coat, but has entered a state of half-tailed beast transformation. Boom. At the same time, the purple lightning on Fusuke's right hand pierced Ginkaku's back. Zilla. The raging purple electric light exploded instantly, turning into electric current and dissipating to Kongshin. Due to contact with Ginkaku's body surface, the skin of Fusuke's right hand was also corroded and burned, making a sound like flesh and blood melting into oil. Due to the presence of the tailed beast's coat, Fusuke's killing blow failed to work. It only caused the half-tailed beast, Silverhorn, to suffer heavy losses. But something terrible happened. In the state of half-tailed beast transformation, Silverhorn's incomplete body began to recover at a speed visible to the naked eye. At this time, Jin Zhao, who was sluggish for some reason, recovered. On the contrary, Silverhorn fell into sluggishness again. 38. Furious, Golden Horn jumped up suddenly and kicked Fusuke angrily. In midair, Golden Horn also activated the half-tailed beast transformation state. At this extremely close distance, Fusuke obviously had nowhere to hide. Seeing that he was about to be kicked by the Golden Horn, Fusuke showed no intention of defending or hiding. He endured the discomfort in his right hand and took out a silver kunai from his ninja tool bag and inserted it into Ginkaku's body. Under the powerful healing ability of the half-tailed beast, the scar stabbed by the silver kunai healed instantly. Before it even had time to pull out, it was already contained in Yinzhao's body by flesh and blood. In this blink of an eye, Golden Horn has also arrived. Boom. Along with the dull sound of impact, Feng Ji's body flew out like a cannonball. Quote. Under this unparalleled force, Fusuke suddenly felt his chest was covered and sprayed a mouthful of blood mist in the air. Whoosh. With the violent sound of breaking wind. Bang. Bang. Fusuke's body flew upside down and did not stop until it broke two big trees. As brothers, the Golden Horn and Silverhorn brothers have a strange talent for overcoming illusions. That is, two people who are mentally connected can temporarily transfer illusions to another person's body. In the moment of crisis just now, Jin Zhao first took the initiative to transfer the illusion in Yin Zhao's body. After Yin Zhao activated the half-tailed beast transformation, to save his life, the illusion returned to Yin Zhao again. And under the Mangekyo ability of Fusuke, Kyoka Suigetsu, Ginkaku still cannot break the illusion until now. But as a six paths bloodline, the illusion resistance of the Golden Horn and Silverhorn brothers is terrifyingly high. It is estimated that within a few minutes, this illusion will be broken by Silverhorn. Until this moment, Yin Zhao is still deeply trapped in the illusion. Jin Zhao turned around and glanced at his younger brother who was struggling and saw that he was only injured but not seriously injured. He had a ferocious look on his face, not intending to let go of Fusuke who had just been injured, and pursued Feng Jie. In the distance, Fusuke was still just lying under the broken tree stump, looking indifferently at the Golden Horn that was coming towards him. At this moment, Golden Horn was wearing a blood-red-tailed beast coat, with a fierce aura and a hateful face, like a terrifying beast. Looking at Jin Zhao's terrifying face, Fusuke just wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth indifferently. Then, he calmly took out a kunai from his ninja bag. Then formed seals and performed ninjutsu. Wind style. Vacuum sword. At that moment, a layer of extremely sharp air flow stretched out from kunai and turned into a long knife. A kunai made of metal alone is not enough to pierce the tailed beast's coat and injure the gold-horned and silver-horned brothers. Obviously, Feng Jie planned to use this kunai to battle the two half-tailed beast turned Golden Horn and Silver-horn brothers. In just a short moment, Golden Horn was already in front of Fusuke. Die! He roared and stretched out his blood-red claws to hit Fusuke's neck. If he were hit by this blow, Fusuke would definitely die. Fusuke seemed stunned by this and still just sat under the tree stump. At the moment when the Scarlet Beast's claws were about to break Fusuke's neck, he silently raised the kunai with the wind style vacuum sword attached to it in his hand. Flying Thunder God, activate. Fusuke's figure mysteriously disappeared from where he was. Chapter 79, Absolute Control. At this point, everything has become art. Advertisement. What? Looking at Uchiha Fusuke who suddenly evaporated and disappeared in front of him, the golden-horned and blood-red beast pupils shrank violently. Before he could use his strength, he smashed the broken tree stump that Fusuke was leaning against with one claw. Boom. Sawdust exploded all over the sky. At the same moment. Whoosh. Fusuke raised the kunai with the vacuum sword in his hand and suddenly appeared next to Ginkaku. I saw that Yinzhao's dull eyes were quickly regaining their clarity at this moment, and he was probably not far away from breaking free from the illusion. But it's a pity. It's too late. He has never had this chance. As soon as Ginkaku broke free from the genjutsu, he saw a kunai with a vacuum sword attached to it that was constantly dilating in his pupils. PFF'd. Blood splatters. Gululu. A ferocious head rolled directly to the ground, and the body of the silver-horned half-tailed beast also fell to the ground softly. The tailed beast clothes on Silverhorn's corpse suddenly faded away, revealing the corpse's original appearance. With his death, the power of 9 tails in him also dissipated. It is true that the half-tailed beast has a strong self-healing ability. But self-healing does not mean immortality. If the head is cut off, even a tailed beast will die, let alone a mere half-tailed beast, pseudo-jinchuriki. In the forest, to escape for one's life, Sarutobi Hiruzen and Shimura Danzo went their separate ways. The two of them were each being hunted by 7 or 8 fake jinchuriki. Sarutobi Hiruzen holds an iron rod transformed from a summoning beast, struggling to resist the pursuit. But it was just an accident. He was once again entangled by a pursuer behind him. The situation is not good. He quickly dodged the opponent's attack. Boom. 3-1-0. Then, Sarutobi Hiruzen took advantage of the situation to counterattack, knocked him away with a stick, and then continued to escape. The member of the Golden Horn and Silver Horn troops who received a blow from Sarutobi Hiruzen fell heavily to the ground, but quickly got up without any pain. The pursuit continues towards Sarutobi Hiruzen. Even young Sarutobi Hiruzen is pretty good. But facing this monster-level enemy, he was still completely unable to withstand it. Unless they are truly strong at cage level, ninjas below cage level will be helpless in the face of this monster that is immune to death and cannot be shaken off. At this time, Sarutobi Hiruzen's strength was far from as sophisticated as it would be in the future. Looking at the monsters still chasing behind him. These monsters, he could only grit his teeth and curse angrily before running for his life. But at this moment, a strange scene happened. Whoa! He saw that among the 8 monsters who were originally chasing him, the tailed beast coats on 5 of them disappeared immediately. At that moment, these 5 people fainted and fell into a coma. Seeing this, Sarutobi Hiruzen was ecstatic. He just thought it was the other party's transformation time. Of course, the real reason cannot be so careless. Everything is still due to the impact of Yinzhao's death. The power of the tailed beasts borrowed from the Golden Horn and Silver Horn troops comes from the Golden Horn and Silver Horn. After Silver Horn's death, the power of 9 tails in him faded. The members of the Silver Horn force, who drank Silver Horn's blood naturally lost this power. Under the backlash caused by the disappearance of the tailed beast's power, most of the members of the Silver Horn force also fainted and died on the spot. Regarding the sudden fainting of Companion, the other members of the Golden Horn force, who had already fallen into the state of animal transformation, showed no intention of stopping. At this moment, in the hearts of these beasts, tearing apart Sarutobi Hiruzen in front of them is their only purpose. But compared to the previous 1 against 8, Sarutobi Hiruzen, who only faced 3 people, finally stopped running away and chose to turn around and fight them. Snort. He snorted coldly, held a stick in his arm, and fought with 3 members of the Golden Horn and Silver Horn troops wearing tailed beast outerwear. A similar situation occurred on Danzo's side. But I can only say that the thing, luck, is illusory, but it does exist. Among the 7 people who were chasing him, only 2 suddenly ended their transformation and fainted to the ground. Obviously, these 2 are the only members of the Silverhorn force who drank Silverhorn's blood. See this. Danzo gritted his teeth, a ruthless look flashed in his eyes. He knew that running away like this was not an option. Fight. He simply gritted his teeth and took the initiative to turn around and launch a counterattack. The 1 against 5 mode was launched. Looking at the sawdust flying all over the sky in front of him, Zhao seemed to suddenly realize something. Advertisement. He turned around suddenly, just in time to see the scene where the wind took the silver-horned owl's head. No. Jin Zhao's eyes were about to burst, and he let out a painful roar. The parents of the brothers Jin Zhao and Yin Zhao died young, and the 2 have been dependent on each other since they were young. Naturally, their relationship is extremely deep. Seeing Yin Zhao being killed in front of his eyes, Jin Zhao went berserk. Boom. Scarlet chakra erupts from the golden horns of the half-tailed beast. Stimulated by anger, the number of tails behind Jin Zhao actually increased from 6 to 7. At that moment, Golden Horn was like a crazy bull, rushing towards Uchiha Fusuke like crazy. With the powerful blessing of the half-tailed beast transformation, a distance of hundreds of meters was instantly covered by the Golden Horn. Seeing that the sharp horn on Golden Horn's head was about to pierce him, Fusuke still refused to dodge. The next second, the sharp horn on the top of the Golden Horn pierced Fusuke's body. Bang! The hearty piercing sensation that Jin Zhao expected did not come. He only felt as if he had hit the air and only stirred up a burst of smoke. Obviously, this Fusuke on the ground is just the shadow clone left by Fusuke. The real Fusuke had already fled away after killing Silverhorn. The shadow clone on the ground was just a target he deliberately left to attract the Golden Horn. Roar. The already furious Jin Zhao became even more angry after being teased. At this time, Jin Zhao was completely angered and had lost the sense that a ninja should have. He had no idea that danger was coming. Uchiha Fusuke's true form once again shot out from behind him. Wind style. Rasengan. A Rasengan infused with wind attribute chakra was hit hard by the wind on the back of Golden Horn. At that moment, Rasengan exploded. Boom. A terrifying air current suddenly exploded from Fusuke's hand, blowing away the half-tailed beast's Golden Horn. Boom. Jin Zhao's body smashed directly into the forest, transforming into a bulldozer and breaking a large number of trees. After the attack was successful, Fusuke still didn't let up. He stared at the smoke in the distance, as if waiting for something. Fusuke doesn't think that facing this kind of monster that has become a tailed beast, he can get into the soul with just one shot of Rasengan. Coming. Suddenly, Fusuke secretly thought in his heart, and the circular windmills in his eyes began to spin rapidly. In the smoke and dust in the distance, bursts of faint black light suddenly emitted. Not long after, Golden Horn's figure was revealed. I saw him opening his big scarlet mouth, aiming at Fusuke and constantly accumulating power. A dark ball kept accumulating in his mouth, and in a moment it had condensed into the football world. After successfully stealing the power of 9 tails, the Golden Horn and Silver Horn brothers were not only able to enter the half-tailed beast transformation state. You can even use the tailed beast's most powerful skill, Tailed Beast Bomb. At this moment, Jin Zhao, who was completely furious, finally couldn't bear it anymore and pulled out his own tricks. Watching Jin Zhao choose to open up directly, Fusuke, who knew the terrifying power of the Tailed Beast Bomb, did not sit still and wait for death. Call. He took a deep breath, slowly raised his hands, and placed them in a triangle shape in front of him. 3 distinct streams of chakra flowed out of Fusuke's palm. With the injection of 3 completely different attributes, a transparent triangle began to gather in the hands of the wind. In the huge ninja world, various bloodline abilities seem to be all kinds of strange. But the reality remains unchanged. All abilities are actually evolved from the nature transformation based on the 7 attributes: water, fire, earth, wind, thunder, yin, yang. Any 2 combinations form the so-called blood inheritance limit. Once 3 of them are combined, bloodline will be eliminated. And after including them all, the blood succession snare is achieved, which is the real power of the immortal. Many years ago, when Uchiha Fusuke first traveled to the ninja world, he has already begun research on bloodline and attribute nature transformation. After years of research, the research results at this time are equivalent to those of Onoki's master and apprentice in the original work. That is to say, it has entered the bloodline elimination level that results from the fusion of 3 natural attributes. At this moment, facing the threat of tailed beast bomb from Golden Horn, Fusuke seems to be planning to use dust release, the product of bloodline elimination, to counterattack. It's just that unlike the square dust release of rock shinobi Onoki's master and apprentice, Fusuke developed a triangular dust release. As for why you ask, of course it's because of the stability of triangles. For a while, the dark sphere and the transparent triangle continued to condense in front of the 2 people. In the distance, Golden Horn, who was charging up the tailed beast bomb, was also shocked when he saw the transparent triangle in Fusuke's hand. This is Shen escape. No way, this must be a cover-up trick by damn Uchiha. How could people in Konoha use dust release? Jinzhao was secretly shocked and angry, feeling unbelievable. After all, for many years, the skill of dust release has been labeled as rock shinobi. But whether he believed it or not, everything was right in front of Golden Horn. At this moment, Golden Horn's tailed beast bomb has been accumulated. Advertisement. HMPH. So what if I escape from the dust? In the face of the ultimate destructive power, everything is false. Jinzhao secretly said angrily in his heart, and took the lead in spitting out the tailed beast bomb in his mouth. Whoosh. The jet black tailed beast bomb shot straight towards Fusuke. He also threw the transparent triangle in his hand. Next, double. Fang seems to be about to enter the rhythm of counter wave. The dark-tailed beast bomb and the transparent triangle were heading towards each other in the air, just when they were about to collide. Suddenly, the Mangekyo in Fusuke's left eye began to spin violently. Aha! Seeing that the jet black-tailed beast that was about to collide with the transparent triangle seemed to be immobilized by something, Madoka suddenly stopped in place. The next moment, tailed beast bomb suddenly disappeared out of thin air, as if it was eaten by something. After the tailed beast bomb disappeared, the transparent triangle without any hindrance flew straight towards the Golden Horn. On the other side, Jin Zhao saw that the tailed beast bomb he released suddenly disappeared out of thin air. He couldn't help but widen his eyes and roared in disbelief. No, how is that possible? For a moment, Jin Zhao even suspected that he was under an illusion. But before he could continue to be frightened and angry, the transparent triangle had already flown in front of him. Aha! The transparent triangle suddenly opened, and the dazzling white light instantly enveloped him. The Golden Horn, which was about to burst, only had time to let out an unwilling roar before it was drowned in white light. Dust escape. Original stripping technique. After the white light, Jin Zhao's body had been broken into the most basic atoms, and his head filled with unwillingness fell to the ground. Click. In the distance, after witnessing the death of Golden Horn, Fusuke couldn't help but slump to the ground. Quote. Red and warm blood was continuously flowing out of Fusuke's left eye. He closed his left eye tightly and covered his eye socket with his hand, constantly trying to wipe away the blood left in the corner of his eye. That's right, it was Fusuke's left eye's Mangekyo pupil technique that instantly reversed the situation at the critical moment, soul eating. It's still a bit too forced. Feeling the severe pain in his left eye, Fusuke smiled bitterly. Forcibly swallowing the tailed beast bomb with Mangekyo really made the wind's chakra soar. But equally, the side effects are also extremely obvious. Now the vision of his left eye is probably going to drop a lot. The plan to obtain the eternal eye must be put on the agenda as soon as possible. Fusuke thought secretly in his heart, forced himself to stand up with his badly injured body, and silently used medical ninjutsu to heal himself. Although he killed the Golden Horn and Silver Horn brothers at an extremely fast speed. But he also paid a corresponding price. Golden Horn's half-tailed beast kick, coupled with the side effects of Mangekyo's overload, were enough for Fusuke to drink a pot. Secretly, Senju Tobirama looked at Fusuke, who had killed the 3.9 brothers of the Golden Horn and Silver Horn, and there was a complicated look in his eyes. It turns out that Fusuke has grown to this extent without knowing it. As the only spectator of this wonderful battle, only Tobirama knows how amazing Fusuke performed in this battle. From the very beginning, the Golden Horn and Silver Horn brothers fell into Fusuke's scheme. After seeing the way the Golden Horn and Silver Horn brothers cracked the illusion, Fusuke then deliberately received a blow from Golden Horn. At first glance, it seems that it is to exchange injury for injury with Ginkaku. In fact, it was to plant the Flying Thunder God Kunai on Ginkaku's body to prepare for the next sure kill. when he was knocked out by the Golden Horn. In order to prevent the Golden Horn and the Silver Horn from transferring illusions again, Fusuke waited until the last moment when Golden Horn was about to attack him, then activated the Flying Thunder God and returned to Silver Horn. Whether it is 1 second earlier, Gold Horn transfer illusion, Silver Horn resumes action. It was still 1 second too late, Silver Horn broke free from the illusion on his own. Everything will undoubtedly fall short. After killing Silver Horn, Fusuke deliberately left Shadow Clone behind to completely anger Golden Horn in a teasing way. He used the wind-attributed Rasengan to knock the Golden Horn away, also to create distance between the two. As expected, the enraged Jinzhou chose to directly zoom in on the wave. This happened to fit into Fusuke's plan. Finally, with the move, Soul Eater, Fusuke shot into the soul and completed the final kill. Fusuke just took advantage of a simple test to gain insight into the two brothers' weaknesses. Whether it is illusion, Flying Thunder God, eye technique or dust escape, he has used these abilities perfectly. Thinking of this, Tobirama silently clasped his hands together, with a flash of wonder in his heart. Bang! Along with a puff of smoke, Senju Tobirama disappeared directly in place. It turns out that the one who was silently observing Fusuke was just one of his shadow clone. Chapter 80. The Birth of Fire and Darkness, What Must Be Done? Advertisement. As the shadow clone dissipated, everything the shadow clone observed was transmitted back to Tobirama's mind. After receiving the news from shadow clone, Tobirama's eyes showed a hint of surprise and complexity. It's just that the complexity on Tobirama's face didn't last long, and soon his face returned to normal color again. Because at this moment, there are more important things to deal with in front of him. He lowered his head and glanced at the ground. Danzo, who had been breathing out more and taking in less air, silently shook his head. Any last words? Danzo. Senju Tobirama asked in an indifferent voice towards Danzo lying on the ground. Looking at the cold-faced Senju Tobirama in front of him. Danzo, who was dying, used his last strength to ask for help, his eyes full of desire for life. But in response, Senju Tobirama just turned around indifferently, leaving Danzo with a cold back. Looking at Senju Tobirama's cold and decisive back, Danzo struggled with his face, but in the end he could only close his eyes weakly. A few minutes ago, Danzo's battle with 5 Golden Horn Force members ultimately ended in his defeat. After a bloody fight, Danzo achieved the Extreme 1 for 3 record. But in the end, facing the remaining 2 beast-like monsters, he could only fall down. Before his eyes he was about to be destroyed in the monster's hands. Tobirama, who had been hiding for a long time, showed up and killed 2 members of the Golden Horn Force. Then, Tobirama turned and left. Danzo was left to die alone on the ground. Not Tobirama unfeeling, but in this game of chasing the peak of power, dying quietly is the best destination for the loser. Unlike Danzo who was defeated by the Golden Horn forces. Facing only 3 enemies, Sarutobi Hiruzen finally achieved a narrow victory after paying a heavy price. But his condition is not much better at the moment. A large hole was dug out of Sarutobi Hiruzen's abdomen, and red and white objects were scattered on the floor. Although he still seemed conscious, he probably wouldn't live long. Whoosh. At this moment, Senju Tobirama appeared in front of him using the Flying Thunder God mark on Sarutobi Hiruzen's back. Teacher, 12 inches. You are finally here. Looking at Senju Tobirama who suddenly appeared in front of him, a trace of ecstasy flashed in Sarutobi Hiruzen's eyes. In Sarutobi Hiruzen's mind, he has completed the task, excellently. So now he should take over Hokage's position. As for Uchiha Fusuke, who has always, never appeared. Sarutobi Hiruzen had already forgotten about it, guessing that Uchiha Fusuke was the one who fled and was killed by Tobirama. But what he didn't expect was that Senju Tobirama immediately gave him a bolt from the blue as soon as he opened his mouth. Hiruzen, do you have any last words? Tobirama still said coldly. Hearing the sound, the ecstasy on Sarutobi Hiruzen's face suddenly froze. After a pause, he seemed to understand the hidden meaning in Tobirama's words. Why? After a while, Sarutobi Hiruzen just said 3 words with a stiff expression. In the end, Tobirama was not as ruthless as he was when facing Danzo, his most proud disciple in the past. You lose. Tobirama calmly uttered 3 words in response. Tobirama did not elaborate, but if you compare it seriously, it's not just a loss. It's a complete defeat. Over there, Fusuke single-handedly killed 2 cage-level experts and successfully avenged Senju Tobirama. Here, Sarutobi Hiruzen faced a miscellaneous soldier but only narrowly defeated him. The comparison between the 2 sides is simply irresistible. Not to mention, in order to win, Sarutobi Hiruzen also used deception and trickery to kill 2 of his companions. Think of this. Tobirama took a deep look at Sarutobi Hiruzen, and chose to turn around and leave indifferently. From the moment Sarutobi Hiruzen tricked Uchiha Kaharu and Mitokado Homura into dying. He should have understood the cruelty of this test long ago. Tobirama did nothing to stop him from deceiving Mitokado Homura and Uchiha Kaharu into committing an ugly act. Same. Now when it was his turn to face death, Tobirama would not interfere. The winner becomes the Hokage, writes everything, receives flowers and glory. The loser loses something and becomes a stepping stone for the winner, paving the way for him. That's all fair, isn't it? Ah, looking at Tobirama's leaving back, Sarutobi Hiruzen let out an unwilling roar. But eventually, his voice was still drowned in the sound of the falling rain. Why? It's all Uchiha's fault. It's all this B D's fault. If he hadn't jumped out first, I would be a Hokage now. Sarutobi Hiruzen kept roaring on the spot with a crazy expression. No, I don't accept it. I want to find the teacher. I want to. He struggled to get up, but as soon as he got up, the contents of his body burst out from the hole in his abdomen. Snapped. Sarutobi Hiruzen fell heavily to the ground and stopped moving. At the same time, deep underground, a white Zetsu witnessed everything that happened on the surface and fed back all this information to the elderly Madara, behind the scenes. Advertisement. Since Madara took a back seat, in order to keep abreast of the situation in the ninja world, he spread a large number of white Zetsu in the ninja world to detect intelligence. It just so happened that there was a white Zetsu lurking underground at this moment, so he learned all about it. Ninja world, unknown underground. After receiving the message from white Zetsu, the elderly Madara, who was sitting on the white chair, suddenly opened her eyes. At this time, he was not as weak and old as he would be later, and he was not yet in need of intubation to extend his life, at all times. Interesting. These are two good experiments. Uchiha Madara murmured in a low voice, and then ordered White Zetsu to bring both of them back. After a while, Madara, who was on crutches, went to a room similar to a laboratory. And the one who accompanies Madara is Black Zetsu, who occupies the body of Jujutsu. In the room, half-dead Shimura Danzo and Sarutobi Hiruzen were lying here. Ahem. The technology of living body transformation is not very mature yet, so we should try it with these two guys. And these two guys have good talents and can be used as consumables when implementing plans in the future. Uchiha Madara thought for a moment and directly decided the fate of the two of them. Yes, old man, but after rescuing them, how can I make them useful to me? Black Zetsu asked in a hoarse voice, confused. As Konoha shinobi, how could these two people be willingly used by Uchiha Madara? Hehe. You must never underestimate the power of hatred. It just so happens that I also need to try the results of thinking transformation on these two guys. Uchiha Madara just chuckled, a pair of scarlet eternal eyes full of indifference. Gia, it's you as expected, old man. Black Zetsu laughed in a hoarse voice. Subsequently, he began to implement living transformation on Sarutobi Hiruzen and Shimura Danzo. The organs in their bodies need to be replaced and replenished. Within a few days, both Sarutobi Hiruzen and Shimura Danzo were successfully revived by Black Zetsu. Where am I? Sarutobi Hiruzen covered his head and glanced at the surrounding environment with some pain. Soon, he saw Shimura Danzo who was in a similar state to him. Danzo. Sarutobi Hiruzen. Soon, the two of them looked at each other with expressions of surprise. Tuck, camp. At this moment, there was a sound of crutches leaning on the ground from far to near. The two of them looked in the direction of the sound at the same time. But the first thing they saw was a pair of slightly rotating large scarlet windmills. At that moment, the two of them stayed in place at the same time. Who do you hate the most? Uchiha Madara walked forward slowly with a cane in one hand and asked the two of them softly. Uchiha Fusuke, X2. Shimura Danzo and Sarutobi Hiruzen, who were in a daze, spoke in numb voices at the same time. Hearing the sound, Madara nodded slightly, seeming to understand something. While the two were in coma, Madara had already explored their memories. So at this moment, he has already thought of how to tame the two of them. Listen to me, that's why you hate Uchiha Fusuke. It's because he killed your teacher, tried to silence you, and took your Hokage position. Madara said to the two of them in a calm tone. His words seemed to have some magic power, making the two of them look confused and their eyes widened. Under Madara's brainwashing, the memories in their minds changed subtly. The person who killed Mitokado Homura and Udatane Kaharu became Uchiha Fusuke. The one who killed Senju Tobirama and wounded both of them became Uchiha no. The two of them were created as innocent victims. Until much later, with Madara's brainwashing completed, the memories of Sarutobi Hiruzen and Shimura Danzo have been completely changed. So, if you want revenge, you can only help me. Do you understand? Madara spoke to Sarutobi Hiruzen and Shimura Danzo in a calm tone. Hear the sound. X2. At this moment, there was only overwhelming hatred in their eyes. Sarutobi Hiruzen and Shimura Danzo nodded at the same time. Uchiha Fusuke, I will make you pay the price. Sarutobi Hiruzen gritted his teeth and growled, his eyes filled with vicious hatred. Very good. Seeing this, Uchiha Madara's old face showed a satisfied smile. From today on, you two are not allowed to show your faces in front of others without my permission. The name, identity and everything before it no longer belongs to you. Uchiha Madara ordered the two of them with an indifferent expression, and handed them two masks to cover their faces. Just call it Yan. Just call it darkness. Then, he pointed at Sarutobi Hiruzen and Shimura Danzo respectively, because the two casually picked up the name. Advertisement. Yes, X2. Hearing this, Sarutobi Hiruzen and Shimura Danzo just numbly put on their masks and lowered their heads in response. Outside the forest, due to the war between Fusuke and the Golden Horn and Silver Horn brothers, the place is now in a mess. After some simple treatment, Fusuke was fine. He held Silver Horn's head and walked towards Jinhorn's lonely head. Snapped. He threw Yinzhao's head in his hand next to Jinzhao's head, forming a pair for the brothers. Afterwards, Fusuke sat quietly, as if waiting for something. Didn't wait too long. Whoosh. Senju Tobirama's figure appeared behind Fusuke. Fusuke turned slightly and looked at Tobirama behind him. You are here, master. Regarding Tobirama's appearance, he just said calmly, without any surprise in his tone. When the cruel power game is over, it's time to announce who the real, new king, is. Tobirama said nothing, and an abnormal blush flashed across his face. PFF'd. The next second, a mouthful of black blood spurted out. Master. Fusuke was startled and quickly stepped forward to check Senju Tobirama's condition. But it was discovered that Senju Tobirama was already poisoned and his life was on the verge of death. In order to last longer, Senju Tobirama used a secret technique that stimulates the human body's potential. At this moment, the effect of the secret technique dissipated, and the strong reaction almost killed him. Fusuke is preparing to use medical ninjutsu to prevent Tobirama's condition from getting worse. But Tobirama grabbed his hand. Fusuke, I don't have much time. You listen to me. Although he was dying, Senju Tobirama still had that extremely indifferent and calm face on his face. Hearing this, Fusuke's eyes flashed with sadness, and his movements froze. He had already guessed what Tobirama was going to say next. From today on, you are the third Hokage of Konoha. Tobirama said word by word, his eyes fixed on Fusuke's eyes. But when he 507 finished speaking, he found that there was no trace of excitement in Fusuke's eyes, but only a hint of sadness. Seeing this, Senju Tobirama's eyes flashed with silence. Now, we are facing this result. Not for Fusuke, but for Tobirama. They were all a little unhappy. From Tobirama's perspective, he passed the Hokage position to Uchiha Fusuke, which was a last resort move and a huge gamble. And for Uchiha Fusuke, he also had to become Hokage and sit in this position that he once rejected in every possible way. If you force yourself to explain everything in front of you, that can only be said. Neither Senju Tobirama chose to make Fusuke the Hokage. It wasn't Uchiha who chose to become the Hokage. Everything is fate. Standing at this turning point of fate, neither of them can resist the decision of fate. Yes, master, I see. In the end, Fusuke slowly spoke, accepting the identity that countless people long for, Hokage. From this moment on, he also officially became the third Hokage of Konoha. Hearing this, the master and the disciple were filled with complex feelings. I don't know whether to be happy or sad. Tobirama, who devoted his life to weakening Uchiha, finally passed the position of Hokage to a member of Uchiha's tribe. This scene is really ironic. For a time, an indescribable atmosphere of silence filled the relationship between the master and the disciple. Fusuke, becoming a Hokage is a road full of hardships. But I believe that with your ability, you will eventually overcome everything. Finally, I hope you can promise me 3 things. After pondering for a long time, Senju Tobirama's eyes flickered slightly and he spoke to Fusuke again. Hearing the sound, Fusuke just nodded silently. He could roughly guess Tobirama's inner worries. At that moment, Tobirama directly spoke out his first request. First, after becoming a Hokage, you must not also serve as the leader of the Uchiha clan. To this, Fusuke nodded in agreement. He knew that Tobirama was wary of Uchiha and that he, a member of the Uchiha clan, would lose control in the future. Second, promise me to protect Konoha and make Konoha stronger. Tobirama said again, a trace of expectation flashed in his eyes. This time, his words were no longer harsh, but full of sincerity. Yes, I will do it, master. Hearing the sound, Fusuke held Tobirama's hand tightly, feeling the breath of life flowing from Tobirama's body bit by bit. At this moment, Senju Tobirama also felt that Shinigami was approaching him, and a trace of recollection flashed in his eyes. Everything in the past flashed before his eyes like a revolving lantern. At this moment, he suddenly thought of his elder brother Senju Tobirama, who had passed away many years ago. But suddenly, as if he thought of something, Tobirama's eyes immediately shined with a sparkle. This third thing is also the most important thing. You must do it no matter what. He grabbed Uchiha Fusuke's hand forcefully and said in a decisive and unquestionable tone. Chapter 81, A Wave of Reputation, the Greatest Hokage. Advertisement. I hope you. Before Senju Tobirama could finish speaking, suddenly. Wow, water curtains were scattered all over the place. Outside the water curtain, all the Konoha shinobi who were watching the critical moment were stunned. What the hell? What on earth is this third thing? How come it's gone after half of it? Yes, what exactly did third generation promise second generation back then? My heart feels like a cat scratching me. What is going on? The onlookers Konoha shinobi complained. Everyone looked towards Senju Tobirama in the distance. I don't know when, but Uchiha Fusuke rushed to Tobirama's side with an embarrassed look on his face, interrupting Tobirama's ninjutsu release. Obviously, he was the culprit who interrupted the show. It was precisely because of Fusuke's timely interruption that the third incident that was about to be made public was forcibly cut off. You kid, what are you doing? Tobirama looked unhappy and glared at Fusuke who interrupted him. There is no doubt that Fusuke's doing this shows that he has something in his heart. In other words, the third thing Fusuke promised Tobirama back then was not fulfilled. Seeing Tobirama's sharp eyes, Fusuke's eyes kept shifting back and forth, seeming to feel guilty. And this further confirms Tobirama's conjecture. Quote. Tobirama said with an unhappy expression, a hint of danger flashed in his eyes. But before Tobirama could make any move, At this time, Minato on the side suddenly stood up and rescued Fusuke. Tobirama-sama, that is to say. Master Fang was completely innocent about what happened back then. Everything is made up by Sarutobi Hiruzen and Shimura Danzo. The purpose is to maliciously target Mr. Fang, Minato said with a solemn expression, bringing everything back on track. That's right. Tobirama nodded and directly confirmed Minato's words. As soon as this statement came out, it immediately caused an uproar, and everyone couldn't help but start talking. I see, Mr. Third Generation is indeed innocent. Yes, fortunately, the appearance of Nadaime shattered the ambition of the traitorous ninja. As expected of Lord Third Generation, he was so powerful when he was young. That's right, killing Cloud Shinobi's two lights is like chopping vegetables and melons. Third Generation is awesome, Mid-Eye is mighty. Quote. For a time, all previous doubts about Uchiha Fusuke disappeared and were replaced by a flood of praise and praise. But the Konoha ninjas who were watching had not been excited for too long. But a discordant voice suddenly appeared in the crowd. Second Generation Project. He killed his own disciple with his own hands. A Konoha shinobi exclaimed in a solemn voice. As the ninja finished speaking. For a moment, the scene on the water curtain just now appeared in the minds of all the ninjas. One scene shows Tobirama's cold face as he carves the flying thunder god on the backs of several disciples. Another scene shows his cold expression when he seems to be dead and refuses to save him. Although this Konoha shinobi's statement seems a bit extreme, it is actually not wrong. After all, no matter what, Tobirama acquiesced in Sarutobi Hiruzen's murder of Uchiha Kaharu and Mitokado Homura. Internal killing is definitely not tolerated within Konoha. This is enough to ruin the reputation of the lofty third Hokage Uchiha Fusuke. It was also enough to make second Hokage Senju Tobirama's former reputation plummet. Even if Senju Tobirama has no choice but to do so. But what's done is what's done. This is an unchangeable fact. Now, I understand. Why does the third generation keep preventing the second generation from recalling its memories? It turns out that he is trying to preserve the reputation of second generation. A more rational Konoha shinobi sighed leisurely. Hearing the sound, all the Konoha shinobi suddenly reacted, with a hint of sadness in their eyes. Then, everyone focused their attention on Uchiha Fusuke, with a hint of respect in their eyes. Whether in front of or behind the scenes, all Uchiha Fusuke's actions can be regarded as affectionate and righteous. So this is all. Jiraiya sighed, a look of emotion flashed across his face. He turned to look at Uchiha Fusuke, his eyes full of pride and admiration. Witnessing the glorious deeds of his teacher in the past made Jiraiya feel equally honored. Fusuke-sama, live up to the village, live up to the mission, and truly deserve to be the greatest Hokage. Needless to say, the only person who can do such a rainbow fart is Fusuke's most loyal, old fanboy, Hatake Sakumo. In the crowd, Shisui looked at Uchiha Fusuke in awe. Advertisement. Only when he saw what Fusuke went through, did he understand how difficult it was to become a Hokage in the name of Uchiha. Only Fusuke-sama can become a Hokage in the name of Uchiha. Grandpa's delusion is really a little too ridiculous. Shisui smiled bitterly in his heart. He turned to look at Uchiha Kageme's body with a trace of sadness in his eyes. The Uchiha tribesmen present also had the same view as Shisui. The longevity of Uchiha depends on Fusuke-sama. Yeah. If Mr. Fang hadn't become a Hokage, Uchiha would have been in danger. Several Uchiha tribe members communicated with each other, their voices full of sighs. The other side, looking at Uchiha Fusuke, who was the center of attention at this moment. Although Ayako didn't speak, her pretty face was filled with a look of great honor. She seemed to be saying, "Look, this is my man, so envy him." But next to Ayako, Hyuga Renka just said 4 words silently, and at the same time raised a delicate white thumb towards Fusuke. Fusuke is great. Only if you look closely can you find that Lotus Flower's glazed pupils are filled with extraordinary splendor at this moment. Looking at everyone's gaze, Fusuke showed a wry smile. Well, this time I was inexplicably forced to gain a wave of reputation and favor in the village. He does have the idea of preserving Tobirama's reputation. But it's not all about Tobirama. More importantly, he didn't want to recall the cruel test. After all, being forced to Hokage was not a good memory for Fusuke. Everyone knows what happened next without going into detail. Uchiha Fusuke took the token of succession to the Hokage, returned to Konoha with the heads of the Golden Horn and Silver Horn brothers, and the body of Senju Tobirama, and succeeded the third Hokage. Impossible, this is impossible. At this moment, a discordant sound suddenly sounded in everyone's ears. Following this voice, everyone gradually shifted their attention. I saw Sarutobi Hiruzen, who was looking crazy, mumbling something to himself in a daze. After Fusuke has been cleared of the slander of deceiving his master and destroying his ancestors, and killing his companions. No one took Sarutobi Hiruzen, the despicable and shameless traitor, seriously. After all, he was surrounded by more than 1,000 Konoha shinobi and several cage-level experts. No one thought Sarutobi Hiruzen could make any waves. Feeling the attention of everyone, Sarutobi Hiruzen roared in complete collapse. The teacher is lying, you are all lying. Junior sister Kaharu and junior brother Homura were obviously killed by Uchiha. The teacher was clearly killed by Uchiha Fusuke. While roaring, he looked towards Senju Tobirama in the distance. He still seemed to think that Senju Tobirama would testify on his behalf. But it's a pity. When he saw Senju Tobirama's gaze, he only saw a trace of pity and disgust in Tobirama's eyes. Ah, Uchiha Fusuke, I am going to kill you. Sarutobi Hiruzen, who was completely crazy, said helplessly and furiously, once again venting all his inner resentment on Fang. After the roar, Sarutobi Hiruzen suddenly lowered his head and sneered, as if he had a schizophrenia. Extreme misfortune. Since you are always favoring Uchiha Fusuke, sensei. Then don't blame me. Sarutobi Hiruzen suddenly raised his hand, as if planning to do something. Before he could take action, Fusuke suddenly frowned, guessing what Sarutobi Hiruzen was thinking. Obviously, Sarutobi Hiruzen has completely jumped over the wall, preparing to use impure world reincarnation to forcibly control the second generation and stubbornly resisting. At that moment, this person suddenly reached out and grabbed forward. Something strange happened, his arm suddenly disappeared as if he had escaped into another dimension. In the ninja world, somewhere beneath the sea of flowers. Hiss, he, let me study you carefully. My little baby. Orochimaru was staring at a glass petri dish on the scientific research table with a face full of enthusiasm, licking his lips constantly. But before he could take action, suddenly, snapped. A big hand grabbed the back of Orochimaru's neck. Hiss. At that moment, Orochimaru sucked in a breath of air as he felt the huge force coming from the back of his neck. Then, his whole body was instantly kicked away by a huge force. On the other side of the laboratory. Looking at Orochimaru, who was suddenly snatched away by a strange hand, in front of him, Yakushi was stunned, and the document in his hand fell to the ground. But soon, she seemed to understand something and showed a slightly helpless expression. Tuck tuck. At this moment, there was a slight knock on the door. A cerebellum enters the laboratory. Sister Yakushi, little Uncle Snake. Advertisement. Time to eat. Lin closed her eyes tightly and said with repulsion. It seemed that as soon as she opened her eyes, everything in the laboratory would taint her eyes. Certainly. For a pure girl, everything is true. Lin, Orochimaru-sama was taken away by Fusuke-sama. Let's just have dinner for the two of us today. Yakushi Nanoyu said helplessly to Lin. Hear the words, Fusuke. Lin exclaimed, opened her eyes and searched for Fusuke's figure in the laboratory with gleaming eyes. She resisted rejection and her eyes passed through the glass jars containing severed limbs. But in the end, nothing was found. Don't look for it, quote. Master Fang has left. Seeing this, Yakushi Nanoyu could only chuckle and persuade Lin. Profound. Hearing the sound, Nohara Lin responded in despair. Brother Fusuke clearly said he would be back in 2 days. It's been several days, why hasn't he come back yet? Lin lowered her head and muttered, her big watery eyes filled with disappointment. Don't worry, Lin is so cute. How could Sir Feng be willing to leave you behind? He'll definitely be back soon. Saying that, Yakushi Nanoyu stepped forward and hugged the girl, walking towards the ground. Really? The innocent girl chose to believe Yakushi Nono's words. Real. Yakushi answered affirmatively. The two figures also disappeared into the laboratory. Uchiha Tribe Land. As Fusuke raised his hand, a man wearing a white coat and purple eyeshadow was dragged out by him. Slow down. Slow down. Teacher, it hurts. As soon as Orochimaru appeared, he held his neck and begged Fusuke for mercy. Hearing Orochimaru's plea for mercy, Fusuke immediately let go of his hand and spoke to Orochimaru with a serious face. Little snake, remove the control of impure world reincarnation from second Hokage. Hearing this, Orochimaru looked confused. What second Hokage? What is the teacher talking about? He glanced around with a confused look, and many familiar people came into his eyes. The two student wives, Jiraiya, Minato, Hitaki Tsukumo. Just when he was confused, he suddenly saw Senju Tobirama, which seemed to be spliced together by pieces of paper. Combined with what Fusuke just said, he understood instantly. The teacher doesn't know who I learned it from, but he likes to pinch people's necks. After Orochimaru complained in his heart, he planned to remove the control of impure world reincarnation from second generation. On playing impure world reincarnation. In the entire ninja world, Orochimaru is ranked second and no one dares to be ranked second good for money. This trick of Sarutobi Hiruzen is not enough in front of Orochimaru. But before Orochimaru could take action, Tobirama on the other side had already shaken his head and chose to speak first. No, Fusuke. Tobirama glanced at Orochimaru, who suddenly appeared and knew that this was another cage-level strong man. And it can be seen from his white coat that this is a cage level with research expertise. At that moment, Tobirama felt a sense of relief in his heart. Konoha at this time seemed to be stronger than he imagined. At the same time, the Sarutobi Hiruzen seal on the other side is trying to use impure world reincarnation to manipulate Senju Tobirama. But he found that no matter how he manipulated it, he could never affect Tobirama in the distance. What exactly is going on? For a moment, Sarutobi Hiruzen's expression became more ferocious, and he jumped up and down in anger. Monkey, you really disappoint me. Have you forgotten that this heaven was developed by Wei? Senju Tobirama said coldly, looking at Sarutobi Hiruzen with cold eyes. It turned out that Senju Tobirama had unknowingly released himself from the control of impure world reincarnation and regained his freedom. Sarutobi Hiruzen, you should have gone to hell with me decades ago. It's my fault as a teacher to let you live in this world for decades. Now, Just go with me to where you should go. As he spoke, Tobirama kept approaching Sarutobi Hiruzen. Tobirama has made it clear that he wants to clean up the door on his own. In this regard, Fusuke and others in the distance had no intention of intervening. Even though Tobirama is currently in the state of impure world reincarnation, Fusuke believes that with Tobirama's ability, it will be easy to deal with a Sarutobi Hiruzen. Looking at Tobirama's stern look, a hint of resentment appeared on Sarutobi Hiruzen's crazy face. Senju Tobirama, you favored Uchiha Fusuke while you were alive. I will favor him even if I die. What kind of teacher are you? He spoke to Tobirama with great hatred. Chapter 82, Illegitimate Son, Shikui, I think of happy things, S-class secret. Advertisement. Hear Sarutobi Hiruzen's hateful words. Senju Tobirama couldn't help but feel a little chilled. Not only Tobirama, but everyone present felt that Sarutobi Hiruzen was a little unreasonable. It can be seen from Tobirama's memories just now that the person Tobirama favors the most has always been Sarutobi Hiruzen. I didn't expect that at this moment, he could be so heartbroken and could say such blasphemous words. The gloominess in Tobirama's heart only lasted for a moment, and soon his eyes were filled with sending again. Since everything was a mistake, from the beginning, it was up to him to correct the mistake. Looking at the approaching Senju Tobirama, the hatred in Sarutobi Hiruzen's eyes became even stronger. Senju Tobirama, do you really think you're still the all-powerful second Hokage? I'm afraid you are only working hard at less than 20% now. How dare you kill me? Stop dreaming, Sarutobi Hiruzen said sharply, his expression full of distortion. Most of the dead summoned by the low-end version of impure world reincarnation can only retain 1 or 2 levels of strength when they were alive. Even though Tobirama was able to crush Sarutobi Hiruzen when he was alive, it is still very difficult for him to deal with the cage level Sarutobi Hiruzen now that his strength is greatly reduced. Killing you is enough. But in response to Sarutobi Hiruzen's ridicule, Tobirama just said coldly. Then, he rushed straight towards Sarutobi Hiruzen. Seeing Senju Tobirama charging towards him, Sarutobi Hiruzen's eyes flashed with contempt. I saw him using the summoning technique to summon an iron rod and hit Senju Tobirama with one blow. Faced with Sarutobi Hiruzen's warning, Senju Tobirama did not avoid it at all. Hung. With a dull blowing sound, Senju Tobirama's head was shattered by Sarutobi Hiruzen's stick. Seeing this, Sarutobi Hiruzen's eyes flashed with pride. But he seemed to have forgotten one thing. That is Senju Tobirama with the body of impure world reincarnation, which is immortal. Although Senju Tobirama's body has lost its head, its movements have not stopped. His arms were like a pair of iron vices, firmly clamping Sarutobi Hiruzen's body from behind. Crashing. Senju Tobirama's shattered head was once again spliced together with confetti-like fragments. At the same time, Tobirama's body suddenly bloomed with a red light. A striking word, explosion, appeared on Tobirama's body. Almost all ninjas are familiar with this red light. This is exactly what comes from the detonating talisman. What? Sarutobi Hiruzen was shocked and wanted to break free from Tobirama's chokehold. But no matter how hard he struggled, it was always in vain. Come to hell with me, monkey. Tobirama whispered in Sarutobi Hiruzen's ear, and then jumped up high with Sarutobi Hiruzen in his arms. No, Saru 987 Hiruzen kept shouting wildly, his expression full of fear. The next second, there was a violent explosion in the sky. Boom boom boom. The powerful explosions continued like New Year's fireworks, turning the entire sky red. Under such continuous explosions, it is basically impossible for anyone to survive. This is the forbidden technique from Tobirama, tandem paper bombs. In the original work, Tobirama even used this move to nearly stun Obito, who was Ten Tails Jinchuriki. After a while, the explosion stopped. Sarutobi Hiruzen disappeared from this land forever, leaving no trace behind. Wow. In the air, accompanied by several pieces of paper, like debris flying from the air. Senju Tobirama's body was pieced together again bit by bit. On Tobirama's face, he still had that indifferent expression like a cool guy. With the execution of Sarutobi Hiruzen, the turmoil of this night of genocide has completely come to an end. Teacher. Uchiha Fusuke took the initiative and went to Tobirama's side. Tobirama turned his head slightly and looked at Fusuke's face, with a trace of warmth in his eyes. Now that the matter has been resolved, he, the dead man in Hades, should go back to where he came from. Fusuke, I really saw the right person. You did great. Tobirama praised Fusuke in a gentle tone, and the cool guy also showed a rare gentleness on his face. After saying that, Tobirama glanced around again. Seeing that today's Konoha is not only strong in military strength, but also full of talents, his eyes once again showed a trace of relief. Hearing Tobirama say this, Oka knew that it was time to say goodbye. All banquets in the world must come to an end. Thinking of this, Fusuke's eyes flickered slightly. Senju Tobirama is still in the state of impure world reincarnation and is freed from the caster's control. If Tobirama doesn't want to go back to Hades, he can survive with this immortal body. Not only that, with Orochimaru's years of research on impure world reincarnation, it is even possible to replace Senju Tobirama with a more perfect body. Advertisement. It can restore Senju Tobirama's strength to 90% of its peak. As long as Senju Tobirama is willing, he can even reach the point of immortality. Even though Fusuke knew that given Tobirama's character, he would most likely refuse, he still planned to give it a try. Teacher. Dao, BCEA. Fusuke's eyes flickered slightly and he spoke slightly hesitantly. But before he could finish speaking, Senju Tobirama interrupted him. I know what you want to say. Fusuke, you should understand that this head cannot be opened. Otherwise, what will the world be like if everyone is like me? Tobirama persuaded Uchiha Fusuke with a serious face. As Tobirama said, people are dying every second of every moment. If everyone cannot face the death of their relatives and friends and uses impure world reincarnation to give them eternal life, then the world will be completely in chaos. It's a lie to say you don't want to live. Who wants to die if you can live? But as a Hokage, Tobirama clearly knows that the weight of some responsibilities is far greater than life and death. Quote. Fusuke's eyes darkened and he said a little depressed. Although he had already expected this outcome, when the time of departure came, he still couldn't help but feel a little sad in his heart. Long before Sarutobi Hiruzen summoned Senju Tobirama with impure world reincarnation. With Fusuke's ability, he had already known from Sarutobi Hiruzen's hand seal movements that the technique he cast was impure world reincarnation. I also guessed that the target of Sarutobi Hiruzen's reincarnation is Senju Tobirama. With Uchiha Fusuke's strength, he can completely prevent Sarutobi Hiruzen from using impure world reincarnation. But in that moment, Fusuke still hesitated, nothing else. He just wanted to see Senju Tobirama again. Among all the people, only Ayako saw Fusuke's inner thoughts and expressed support to Fusuke in time. So, when Senju Tobirama was resurrected, he rewarded Fang with a Storm Queen. Fusuke just said, I'm sorry. It's not because Fang Jie once really deceived his master and destroyed his ancestors. But because of his own selfishness, he felt guilty for not stopping Sarutobi Hiruzen from using impure world reincarnation. Senju Tobirama may or may not know Fusuke's mood. But nothing matters at this moment. Being able to see that Konoha is so powerful today under Fusuke's governance, he has finally fulfilled his wish. You brat, why are you so childish? Brother is still waiting for me below. Senju Tobirama smiled slightly and comforted the wind in front of him. But after saying that, he mentioned the word, big brother. It seemed that a certain nerve in Senju Tobirama was suddenly triggered, making him recall some forgotten things. This made Senju Tobirama, who was originally planning to contact impure world reincarnation and return to the underworld, suddenly stop. At that moment, Tobirama squinted his eyes directly, with a hint of coldness in his eyes. Seeing this, Fusuke shrank his neck instantly, and a hint of evil flashed in his eyes. You kid, come here. At this moment, Tobirama once again used the max level, throat lock, dragged Fusuke and left. Master, don't. Fusuke struggled hard, but still couldn't break free from Tobirama's iron time. In the distance, Orochimaru looked thoughtful when he saw this scene. I saw Tobirama dragging Fusuke directly and found Hyuga Renhua and Uchiha Ayako on the side. When he approached Ayako, Tobirama squinted his eyes in dissatisfaction, and looked at Ayako with a look of repulsion. Come with me. After saying these words, Tobirama dragged Fusuke, who looked helpless, towards an unoccupied corner. It seems that there is something to be discussed secretly. Seeing this, Hyuga Leonwa followed him expressionlessly. Uchiha Ayako hesitated slightly for a moment before choosing to follow. Seeing the four people leaving, all the Konoha shinobi fans on the side all showed scratchy expressions. I still really want to know, what was the third thing, when the third generation project agreed to the second generation project? A Konoha shinobi member said with a depressed expression. Who says it isn't? I think there must be something hidden in it. Another Konoha shinobi also said with an 8 trigrams look on his face. What do you think it will be? Judging from second generation's expression at the time, it must be a very important thing. Quote. Another Konoha shinobi was thoughtful at first, then suddenly realized. What did you guess? Tell me quickly. All the anxious-looking Konoha shinobi gathered around and asked. That's what I thought. You see, second generation is said to be the most important thing. What else could it be? Of course it involves the position of Hokage, that's the important thing. Advertisement. This person swore emphatically and said it as if it was true. You are right. Keep talking. All the Konoha shinobi practitioners showed expressions of approval, and then spoke to urge them. It is rumored that second Hokage never got close to women and had no children. I don't think that's possible. Do you think it's possible that the second generation made arrangements with the third generation before they died? After the third generation steps down, his illegitimate son will continue to inherit the position of Hokage. This Konoha shinobi expert suddenly broke the news. You are obviously talking nonsense. How is it possible? Fourth generation is obviously 27. A Konoha shinobi immediately sneered after hearing this, but before he could finish speaking. He seemed to have thought of something, and suddenly turned his head to look at Namikaze Minato in the distance. When I saw Minato's eye-catching, white hair. Quote. He suddenly seemed to have discovered some new world, and couldn't help but take a sharp breath of air. This. The Konoha shinobi people around looked at each other with expressions of, I'm afraid if I think about it. Even if there are occasional voices such as, fourth generation originally had blonde hair, they are quickly drowned out by the illegitimate child remarks. Far away. In fact, not only ordinary Konoha shinobi people, but also, cage level, experts such as Jiraiya and Sakumo are also very curious about this. Regarding the discussion in the distance, although the faces of several people remained calm, their ears were already perked up. PFF'd. When he heard Namikaze Minato's illegitimate child theory, Hitaki Tsukumo couldn't help but burst out laughing. At that moment, Minato glared at Tsukumo fiercely. I'm sorry, I just remembered something happy. Hitaki Tsukumo immediately covered his face and apologized, not daring to let Minato see his expression. Minato, can't you? At this moment, Jiraiya on the side suddenly jumped out and said, first. Finally, Minato couldn't bear it anymore. Master. He sternly scolded Jiraiya and Hitaki Tsukumo who were being careless around him. Turning around, a flying thunder god came to the front of the Konoha shinobi. That ends tonight. As the fourth Hokage, I order all information tonight to be classified as S-class, secret. Everyone has to leak, except for members Anbu and Uchiha who stayed to clean up the battlefield, the rest were disbanded where they were. Minato ordered all the Konoha shinobi with a cold face. Yes, XN. At this moment, all the Konoha shinobi responded in unison and then prepared to leave. When the show ended, there were still sporadic discussions that reached Minato's ears. Look, what did I say? Why the fourth generation classified everything as a secret? Isn't it because they are afraid of his illegitimate child? At that moment, Minato immediately glared in the direction of the sound. The revealing king, in the distance instantly felt a chill running down his spine. He shrunk his neck and immediately shut up and fled the crime scene. After everyone left, Minato looked up at the sky helplessly. Master, I have been harmed by you. Minato smiled bitterly and sighed helplessly in his heart. On the other side, somewhere hidden. After Tobirama made sure that no one was around, he looked at the three good babies in front of him. Fusuke, Renge and Ayako were all a little uncomfortable under Tobirama's oppressive gaze. The one who behaved the most stiffly was Ayako, who used to be fearless. Lien Hua, on the other hand, still performed very freely, without any fluctuation on her face on the ice. Master, what are your instructions? You might as well say directly. Fusuke looked at Tobirama in front of him with erratic eyes and asked, seeming to feel guilty in his tone. Seeing that Fusuke was still pretending to be stupid, Tobirama glared at Fusuke in front of him. Seeing Tobirama's eyes, he could only smile helplessly. Of course he didn't want to do this, but the thing he agreed to Tobirama back then seemed a bit unspeakable now. Seeing Fusuke's expression, Tobirama was not worried at all. Are you Uchiha Ayako? Instead, he turned around and spoke to Ayako on the side. Quote. Ayako replied in a weak voice. The charming and confident face in the past now looked a little awkward and stiff. It seems that no matter how mature and confident a woman is, she still shrinks a little when it comes to meeting her parents-in-law. Tobirama took a close look at Ayako's eyebrows with a cold face, and found that her charming face was like a ripe apple, white and rosy, and she had become a woman for a long time. Looking at Lionwa again, I saw that although her beautiful face was flawless, it still had a hint of youthfulness, which was undoubtedly a girlish state. So Tobirama concluded in his heart that Ayako is Fusuke's current, real wife. After confirming this, Tobirama frowned again and glared at Uchiha Fusuke who looked helpless next to him. That look seemed to say, I don't know what's so good about Uchiha. Chapter 83, so when are you going to marry Tsunade? Advertisement. Facing the look in Senju Tobirama's eyes, Fusuke didn't know how to explain it. Is he going to say, apart from being sensible, good-looking, long-legged, perky big cushion, knowledgeable and not clingy, this woman really doesn't have anything good. In the end, facing the never married Senju Tobirama, Fusuke could only remain silent. In fact, Ayako and Tobirama are no strangers either. After all, when he accepted Fusuke as his disciple, he had already backed Fusuke. I know that Ayako and Fusuke have a relationship similar to that of childhood sweethearts. From this point of view, it is not surprising that the two later entered the palace of marriage. Ever since, Tobirama became more certain of Ayako's identity in his heart. At that moment, he no longer hesitated. Tobirama still has that cool guy face, and he is very capable of elderly style. Ayako, right? He asked Ayako again, but this time he removed his last name and his attitude was gentler. Yes. Hearing Tobirama's slightly changed attitude, Ayako breathed a sigh of relief and responded. I think so. Women are not just businessmen. You should also learn to accept some things, so that you can keep more of men's hearts. Tobirama still said with a cold face, but the words in his mouth didn't sound right. After hearing Tobirama's words, Ayako was dumbfounded. I don't understand why Senju Tobirama, who looks like a cool guy, suddenly turned into a friend of women. Seeing Ayako's round and charming eyes, he just assumed that Ayako was not interested in his proposal. Women are just trouble. Tobirama frowned and couldn't help but sigh in his heart. But who is he? The majestic second Hokage Senju Tobirama, how can you give up before the goal is achieved? So he continued. For men, it's normal to have 3 wives and 4 concubines. As Fusuke's wife, you have to be more considerate. After listening to Tobirama's persuasion, Ayako's originally white and charming eyes suddenly froze, and she couldn't help but feel a little depressed. As smart as she is, how could she not know that Tobirama had a misunderstanding about her identity? Although she really wanted to take the opportunity to make mistakes. Unfortunately, some things cannot be achieved by pretending to be the leader. I'm sorry Tobirama-sama, I think you misunderstood. I'm not Fusuke's wife yet. At this moment, Ayako returned to her usual mature and charming look. She asked Tobirama in front of her in a low voice to apologize. Although her tone was very calm, everyone present could hear that there was a hint of depression in Ayako's voice. 27. Facing these two words, even Lian Hua's eyes on one side showed a strange color. After hearing Ayako's explanation, Tobirama's eyes showed a hint of surprise. He raised his eyebrows and turned to look at Uchiha Fusuke, who had a complicated expression on his side. Ayako's, already a married woman, thing cannot be faked. And looking at Ayako, she looks like she is full of Fusuke. So that is to say, how dare Uchiha Fusuke take it all and refuse to admit it? So you are not married yet? Tobirama looked at Uchiha in surprise and asked, with a hint of strange color in his eyes. Yes. To this, Fusuke could only agree bravely. Next, Fusuke expected to receive a scolding from Tobirama. But unexpectedly, I just heard Tobirama sighing quietly. So what happened back then was true. Tobirama looked directly into Fusuke's eyes, his eyes extremely deep. Hearing the sound, Fusuke did not answer, just remained silent. 27. Why are you waiting for a woman you are destined to never wait for? Tobirama sighed leisurely, with a hint of complexity in his eyes. Fusuke's face became increasingly serious, but he remained silent. Hearing the sound, Ayako and Leon beside them were also shocked. The two women couldn't help but look at each other. They all know that there seems to be someone lingering in Fusuke's heart over the years. This is also the reason why he has never accepted them. But as for the identity of that woman, Ayako and Renhua still knew nothing about it. Over the years, the four of them have never shown any unusual intimacy to the person of the opposite S**X around them. This also makes this person's identity extremely mysterious. For this reason, Ayako Renka and Fusuke have always remained at the level of more than friends, not quite lovers. It wasn't until recently that Ayako crossed that line through careful planning. From what Tobirama said, he seemed to have some idea of the woman's identity. Renhua and Ayako's eyes flashed at the same time. Both of them stared at Tobirama silently, waiting for Tobirama to continue speaking. Unexpectedly, the atmosphere suddenly became silent. Neither the master nor the apprentice had any intention of speaking. Advertisement. This topic ended abruptly, after a long time. A trace of disappointment flashed in both Ayako's and Renhua's eyes. They know that there is no chance of solving the mystery. Suddenly, Tobirama's expression turned positive again. He stared at Fusuke in front of him. So when are you going to marry Tsunade? Hearing this, Ayako's face stiffened again. Even Leon's expression on the other side became a little unnatural, and her breathing suddenly became a little faster. After hearing Tobirama's words, Feng Ji's expression changed from silence to bitterness again. I knew it, he whispered helplessly, recalling the third condition he promised Tobirama many years ago. On his deathbed, Tobirama suddenly thought of his elder brother who had lived for more than 10 years. When he thought of Senju Hashirama, he thought of Hashirama's granddaughter, the only person he couldn't worry about now, Tsunade. At that moment, a wonderful idea came to Tobirama's mind. It is a fact that Fusuke succeeds Hokage. Is there any way it can not only take care of Tsunade, who has been worried about him after his death, but also ease the relationship between Senju and Uchiha? By the way, it forms a check and balance for Uchiha Fusuke. After thinking about it, Tobirama came up with the only way. That is, marriage. As a being who has been active in the ninja world since the Sengoku era, Tobirama's inner concepts are still relatively traditional. The method of marriage was also a common political method among the major ninja clans in the Sengoku period to avoid wars and fights. Since Fusuke wants to be Hokage, there is nothing wrong with using this method on him and Tsunade at this time. No matter how you look at it, this is a wonderful move. Ever since, Tobirama held Fusuke's hand tightly and spoke to him in a sincere tone. I hope you can marry that girl Tsunade after I die. This is my last and most important request. You must promise me. Tobirama stared at Fusuke with intense eyes. It seemed that if Fusuke didn't agree to this request, he would die in silence. Seeing this, a trace of struggle and hesitation flashed across the young Fang's face. Promise me. Seeing this, Tobirama grabbed Fusuke's hand a little harder and became even more sincere. Confronted with Tobirama's dying plea, even if Fusuke is hard-hearted, he can't help but be a little shaken. So in desperation, he had no choice but to agree, without conscience. No matter what, the best thing to do now is to send him off with peace of mind. And seeing Fusuke agree, Tobirama breathed a sigh of relief. At the same time, it seemed as if half of his strength had been drained away by Shinigami. Not long after, he closed his eyes and stopped breathing in Fusuke's arms. And this was the first thing Fusuke promised Tobirama to do when he succeeded Hokage. Obviously, Fusuke failed to comply with Tobirama's last request. He did not marry Tsunade, but took her as his apprentice. And when Fusuke discovered that Tsunade showed the tendency of jockey contempt, he also chose to retreat in time and directly retired. When Senju Tobirama mentioned this matter again, Fusuke didn't know how to respond and could only stand there in silence. A grown man, what's wrong with having 3 wives and 4 concubines? Little Leon was madder. I've been waiting for you for most of my life, I think it's better to accept it together. And Ayako, Since you've done it, you dare to do it and admit it. When Tsunade comes back, let's work together. Now that everything has been sorted out, Senju Tobirama simply arranged everything in one fell swoop. In the entire ninja world, the only one who dared to use such an attitude, tone, and say such words was Senju Tobirama. Master, please don't mess with the rules. Fusuke begged Tobirama with a wry smile, his face full of indignity. Unexpectedly, Senju Tobirama didn't even look at him, but turned to look at Renka and Ayako on the side. What do you two think? This question undoubtedly went directly to the heart of the two women. Yes, master. At that moment, Ayako smiled sweetly and agreed calmly. Good. Leonwa also quickly nodded in agreement. Although her little face was still expressionless, no matter how you looked at it, she felt that her movements were urgent, and her nodding seemed like a slap in the face. This time, Fusuke's scalp on one side was completely numb. Forget it, Ayako. Leonwa, why are you fooling around with master? Fusuke spoke weakly, feeling a sense of powerlessness all over his body. But after hearing Fusuke's words, Leonwa just tilted her head expressionlessly, seemingly confused. Seeing that Renhua seems to be planning to use, acting cute, to get through, Fusuke has no choice. Looking at Fusuke, his face was still bitter and he seemed to be resisting. Please give me flowers, oh. Tobirama also sighed helplessly. Advertisement. He understands that some things can only be said to be frozen 3 feet and not frozen in a day. He glanced at Renka and Ayako's faces. Finally, his eyes were fixed on Ayako's face. Come here for a moment. As Tobirama spoke, Ayako obediently went to Tobirama's side. Tobirama seemed to whisper something to Ayako, which made Ayako's charming eyes shine brightly. Okay, master. After listening, Ayako immediately called Tobirama sweetly, master. Hearing the sound, Tobirama's eyes flashed with mixed colors. Whoa, he suddenly took out a scroll and threw it into Ayako's hands. This thing can be regarded as a wedding gift for you. I think you should know how to use it. Ayako took the scroll given by Tobirama with a surprised look on her face, opened it and looked at it. Suddenly, I saw 4 big characters written on the first side of the scroll, Impure World Reincarnation. When Ayako opened the scroll, she was not carrying Uchiha Fusuke. Therefore Fusuke can also clearly see the contents of the scroll. Uchiha Fusuke. He knows where this is, Impure World Reincarnation, this is clearly the sword of Shang Fang. Tobirama almost explained the sentence, if this boy dares to disobey me, call me out again. Master, is this really necessary? Fusuke hesitated to speak, but finally opened his mouth to complain to Tobirama. Every banquet in the world will come to an end, you brat, you're just a waste of time. I hope there won't be a day when we two meet again. Gone. With that said, Tobirama turned around and released the reanimation jutsu himself. The movements are natural, without any hesitation. Master. Feng Ji's eyes were startled, but he could only see Tobirama's body instantly disintegrating like confetti and disappearing with the wind. He didn't expect that the separation between the two would be in this way. Looking at the scraps of paper scattered in the wind, Feng stood there in silence for a long time. When he turned his eyes again, he saw 2 beauties with their eyes locked on him, seemingly waiting for him to say something. By the way, the sword of Shangfang in Ayako's hand has long since disappeared, and it has obviously been hidden by her. Under the scorching gazes of Ayako and Renka, Fusuke's heart suddenly thumped. Suddenly, he seemed to remember something. That. It seems that Fugaku guy escaped, let me go and see. He said quickly to Renhua and Ayako, and then used the flying thunder god to escape. After Fusuke left, he looked at the empty space in front of him. Pooch. Not only was Ayako not disappointed, she actually smiled. On the other side, Leonwa was not surprised by this, but walked slowly to Ayako's side. How? Leonwa turned her head slightly and asked Ayako coldly. I really didn't expect second generation's intrusion, but it doesn't matter. Everything was as I expected. In this case, the first phase of the plan was successful. Ayako responded softly to Leonwa, with a charming smile on her lips. What to do next? I'll help you. Leonwa still just nodded expressionlessly and said indifferently. Next, we just need to do this. A trace of brilliance flashed in Ayako's charming eyes, and she whispered close to Leonwa's ear. Hearing this, Lianhua's ice-like skin suddenly flashed an abnormal blush, but it soon returned to its original state. Good. With Leonwa's heavy nod, the exchange between the two came to an end. Uchiha Tribe Land, Fugaku House. Since he knew about tonight's turmoil early in the morning, Fugaku made appropriate arrangements for his wife and son. He hid his wife and 2 sons in a hidden secret room in his home. In the secret room, the uneasy Uchiha Makoto held Sasuke, who was only a few months old, and Itachi, who was 6 years old, waiting for news about Fugaku. Until much later. Click. The secret room was opened from the outside. The smell of blood instantly poured into the secret room. Uchiha Makoto immediately stood up and ran towards the door of the secret room. The scene he saw made Uchiha Makoto instantly scream in horror. Anata, Fugaku, who has no good flesh on his body and is blind, is lying in a miserable state at the door of the secret room. Seeing this, the 6-year-old Itachi's pupils shrank suddenly. He immediately stepped forward to check Fugaku's condition. Although he is only 6 years old, Itachi has already begun to receive ninja training. The basic ninja abilities are almost mastered now. So Uchiha Itachi was not frightened at all by Fugaku's tragic situation. Instead, he helped Fugaku wipe his bleeding face and looked after Fugaku Zero as much as possible. Chapter 84, Secret Room, Headless Corpse, Boy Holding Human Head. Advertisement. Makoto, Itachi. Fugaku called his wife and son's names while groping in front of him. It's just that as a womanly person, Uchiha Makoto has already lost her sense of proportion at this moment. She was at a loss as to how to help Fugaku, and just stood there with a painful look on her face. It wasn't until Uchiha Itachi took the initiative to grab Fugaku's hand that Fugaku calmed down. How is little Sasuke? Fugaku asked. It was obvious that he was still a little worried about his youngest son at this moment. My brother is very good. Itachi spoke softly, looking at his father in front of him with sad eyes. Father, how can we help you? He asked Fugaku again, with a calmness beyond his age in his tone. Hearing Itachi's calm voice, Fugaku felt relieved. Staying calm in times of crisis, his son is indeed a genius. But in the end, Fugaku just shook his head with a bitter look on his face. Itachi, you can't even help me. I was so wrong. I don't have much time, now you listen to me. Uchiha Fugaku said as he firmly grabbed his eldest son's hand. Whoosh! With an inaudible sound, Uchiha Fusuke's figure appeared in the secret room of the Fugaku family. Through the flying thunder god mark left in advance, he came to Fugaku very easily. Before he could breathe a sigh of relief, he was secretly grateful that he had successfully escaped from the forced marriage scene. The scene around him made Fusuke's eyes flash with depression. This is a dark secret room. In the center of the secret room, a blood-red candle burned. The dim candlelight made this narrow secret room somewhat eerie. A pungent smell of blood is filling the secret room at this moment, making people feel a slight discomfort in the nasal cavity. Uchiha style, 677, is located at the door of the secret room. And in front of him was the target of his trip, Uchiha Fugaku. Or rather, it's Uchiha Fugaku's corpse. Yes, he is dead. And the death disguise is extremely miserable. Fugaku's body fell to the ground, and his head above the neck had disappeared not far away. The main source of the pungent blood in the secret room is Fugaku's neck, which is still spurting blood. Another source of blood smell. From a female corpse next to Fugaku's corpse. The woman's eyes were full of disbelief, as if she couldn't believe that she would suddenly encounter something unexpected until she died. The main cause of a woman's death was a sharp instrument inserted straight into her heart. It can be seen that the person who did it was ruthless and decisive, and he was a ninja with rich experience. He killed him with one blow without causing any unnecessary pain to the deceased. And this female corpse is Uchiha Fugaku's wife, Uchiha Makoto. Just look back slightly. You can see the really depressing things. Not far from the two corpses. Standing there was a little boy with a dull expression and a somewhat gloomy look. At this moment, he was staring blankly at the two corpses on the ground, with a trace of scarlet eyes flashing from time to time. That's not even the most depressing part. The most terrifying thing is that in the boy's right hand is a huge head. This head is the detached head of Uchiha Fugaku. At this moment, Fugaku's head. He was closing his eyes tightly, with a faint smile on his face, making him look even more absurd and gloomy. In the boy's left hand, he was holding a sleeping baby boy. At his feet was a sharp kunai dripping with blood. A secret room, a headless corpse, a female corpse, a little boy holding a human head and a baby. If this were another place, it would be a proper horror movie scene. If it were someone with a slightly weaker mental capacity, I'm afraid they would have to vomit directly. Uchiha Fan just glanced at the horrific situation in front of him. In his mind, he roughly imagined what happened here. Quote. Then, he subconsciously let out a quiet sigh. This slight sigh startled the little boy standing aside. He raised his head suddenly and looked at Feng Huan in front of him with a pair of scarlet eyes. At this moment, in the boy's eyes, 3 scarlet magatama and a large triangular windmill were constantly changing back and forth, looking extremely unstable. Seeing this, Fusuke's eyes changed. Of course he knew what the unstable triangular windmill meant. Before Fusuke could continue to be surprised. Suddenly, the little boy who was standing there suddenly fell to his knees. Greetings to Mr. Third Generation. The traitorous ninja Uchiha Fugaku and his wife were killed by me myself. This is his head, please check it. Advertisement. Uchiha Itachi held Sasuke in one hand, bowed his head and knelt down, raising the head in his hand. Although his movements were extremely calm, the tremor in his voice could not be hidden from Fusuke. Hearing the sound, Fusuke's eyes flashed with confusion. He did not answer Itachi's words, but walked slowly to Itachi, knocked Uchiha Itachi's head out of his hand and said. Son of Fugaku, Uchiha Itachi. Keep your head up. Although Fusuke's tone was not harsh, just these words made Itachi's body tremble. No matter how calm he is still just a 6-year-old child. Faced with the tragic death of his parents in front of his eyes, it would be good if he didn't collapse, let alone make everything watertight. Uchiha Itachi slowly raised his head, his thin body shaking like a sieve, but he never dared to look directly at Fusuke. At this moment, Tawan recalled everything that had just happened. Itachi, listen well, it's all because of myself that I have ended up like this. Don't try to avenge me, and don't blame me. When you grow up, you will understand all this. Fugaku grabbed Itachi's little hand with a bitter look on his face, holding on to it every minute and urging him desperately. Before Itachi could comprehend the depth of Fugaku's words, Fugaku suddenly turned around and spoke to Uchiha Makoto. Makoto, come here. Hearing the sound, Uchiha Makoto, who had been stunned in place, came to Fugaku with a look of concern. Give me the baby. Before Makoto could speak, Fugaku spoke softly to Makoto. Woo. Hearing the sound, Uchiha Makoto cried and handed the child into Fugaku's hands. Fugaku carefully took Sasuke, then hugged his wife and whispered softly into her ear. I'm sorry, Makoto. Before Uchiha Makoto could answer. PFF'd. A sharp kunai pierced Makoto's chest. Uchiha Makoto looked down at his pierced chest, a trace of disbelief flashing in his eyes. Because it was her beloved husband who killed her. I'll be right away, wait for me. Fugaku whispered again. Makoto glanced at Fugaku with a puzzled look, and before she could figure it out, Toru had already stopped breathing. Witnessed his father killing his mother. Such an impact is naturally unparalleled. Ah, why? 6-year-old Uchiha Itachi screamed in pain and asked his father in disbelief. At the same time, Uchiha Itachi's pupils quickly became bloodshot and turned red. In just a moment, 3 red magatama split apart. For all this, Fugaku, who is blind, obviously has no way of knowing. Call. Fugaku put the dagger in his hand on the ground, turned around and began to explain everything to Uchiha Itachi beside him. Only if Makoto and I die, you and Sasuke can live. Uchiha Fugaku roughly explained the ins and outs of the coup to Itachi. Why? Why do you have to launch a coup? I killed so many people and even killed my mother. Uchiha Itachi asked Fugaku with a painful expression. It's all because of my greed, Itachi. No matter what, you must live and not protect Sasuke. Now, please kill me and chop off my head. Only in this way can the village let you live. Uchiha Fugaku looked in pain and said to Itachi minding his own business. He had no regard for how shocking his words were to a 6-year-old child. What did you say? Itachi stared at Fugaku with his whole body trembling, the 3 scarlet magatama in his pupils still spreading. Thump. Facing Itachi's questioning, Fugaku acted simply. He knelt directly in front of Itachi and begged in a sincere voice. Please, Itachi, even if it's for little Sasuke, please do it. Hearing the sound, Itachi seemed to have thought of something. He placed his gaze on Sasuke in Fugaku's arms, and a trace of wavering flashed in his eyes. Call. I also know that all this is a bit too difficult for you, Itachi. Just think of it as just taking a nap. Uchiha Fugaku suddenly stood up and whispered to Itachi. As he spoke, Fugaku began to form seals. Calculating mentally and unintentionally, the 6-year-old Itachi instantly stood there with dull eyes. Even with the loss of 2 Sharingan. But Fugaku was once a cage-level expert after all, so he could easily control a 6-year-old child with illusions. Later, under the control of Fugaku's genjutsu, Uchiha Itachi picked up the kunai on the ground with dull eyes and walked slowly towards Fugaku. When Uchiha Itachi woke up again, he saw Fugaku lying on the ground with a kunai piercing his neck. Advertisement. There was a peaceful smile on Fugaku's face, and there was no trace of pain. The other end of the kunai was held in Itachi's hand. Ah! Itachi dropped the kunai in his hand and roared in pain. 2 lines of clear tears flowed from the corners of his eyes. Endless pain swept through Uchiha Itachi's heart, causing the scarlet magatama in his eyes to beat continuously, evolving towards a triangular windmill. After a while, Itachi finished crying and wiped away the tears from the corners of his eyes. Picked up the kunai on the ground again. For Sasuke, 11. He murmured in a trembling voice and walked towards Fugaku's body again. After cutting off Fugaku's head, Uchiha Itachi stood quietly, staring blankly at the bodies of Fugaku and Makoto, waiting. Staring at the eyes of Uchiha Itachi, the pupils are constantly changing back and forth between 3 magatama and triangular pinwheels. Fusuke's eyes flickered slightly. He was almost certain that the reluctant Uchiha Itachi had turned on the Mangekyo Sharingan. But maybe it's because of age. His Mangekyo is not yet stable. What does it mean to start Mangekyo at the age of 6? It is equivalent to saying that as long as Itachi is allowed to grow smoothly, he will definitely be buried in the cage-level threshold in the future, and the upper limit of his strength is immeasurable. In fact, if it weren't for the fact that Uchiha Itachi's fate in the original work was too tortuous. With his ability, it's hard to say where the upper limit is. At least if the roles of Itachi and Sasuke were reversed, Itachi would probably do much better than Sasuke. Looking at the trembling Uchiha Itachi in front of him, Fusuke withdrew his gaze, glanced at Fugaku's body, and couldn't help but sigh. Why is this necessary? No matter how you look at it, the scene in front of you is a real human tragedy. After hearing Fusuke's sigh, Itachi mustered up the courage and looked at Fusuke's face. Only then did he realize that Fusuke's eyes were not as cold and heartless as he had imagined. Instead, there was a hint of emotion and sadness. Feeling Itachi's gaze, Yinwen turned his head slightly. He stretched out his hand, rubbed the top of Itachi's head, and handed a handkerchief to Itachi's hand and said, "Cry." Hearing the sound, Uchiha Itachi couldn't hold back any longer. He hugged Sasuke tightly, collapsed on the ground and kept crying. His cry seemed heartbreaking. What the hell is this? Looking at Uchiha Itachi crying with the baby in his arms, Fusuke shook his head helplessly. Obviously, Uchiha Fugaku really thinks too much, and adds too much drama to himself. He was indeed destined to die. But Fusuke is not so low level as to embarrass Uchiha Makoto, Sasuke and Itachi, 3 orphans and widowers. Although the future life of this orphaned and widowed mother will definitely be more difficult. But it is definitely much better than the human tragedy in front of you. Can only say, Uchiha Fugaku is not only not a qualified husband, but also not a qualified father, causing trouble for the whole family. He was also overthinking and killed his wife. Although Uchiha Itachi said he killed Fugaku and Makoto. But it's obviously a lie. 1.9 Makoto was stabbed in the chest. How could Itachi, who was just 1 meter tall, stab the knife in that position? Needless to say, it must have been Fugaku's hand. As for Fugaku's own death, he was probably the one who forced Uchiha Itachi to do it. When thinking of this, Fusuke's heart is naturally full of complexity. After all, if we had known what would happen today, why bother in the first place? After a while, Uchiha Fusuke returned to the Uchiha chief's residence with 2 little brothers in his arms. The 2 little brothers in Fusuke's arms have also fallen asleep at this moment. No matter how precocious Uchiha Itachi is, he is still just a 6-year-old child. Continuous stimulation has already made him physically and mentally exhausted. At this time, Ayako had just returned here. In the Patriarch's mansion, there are also a large number of Uchiha backbones under Ayako, and Yiping is discussing something with them. Seeing Fusuke's arrival, Ayako waved away the Uchiha ninjas. In response to this, everyone also resigned with a wink. He had no intention of disturbing the clan leader and Hokage's 2-person world. These are Fugaku's 2 sons. Ayako stared at the 2 children in Fusuke's arms, a strange look flashing across her eyes. Although she used a question, her tone was very certain. Ayako always said that she was just a little woman who was ignored by Uchiha Kagami. But judging from her performance today, it seems that everything is not that simple. Ayako, who never leaves home, can even recognize Fugaku's 2 young children at a glance. Thinking of this, a look of deep confusion flashed in Gangji's eyes. But he didn't care too much. Fusuke, who was a little tired, just nodded slightly. What an irresponsible man, Ayako said meaningfully, as if she had already guessed the outcome of the Fugaku couple. It's just the words in her mouth that K the wind's ears no matter how hard they sound. Chapter 85, Obito, where is my Sharingan? Fusuke's ultimate pressure gun. Advertisement. After putting the 2 little brothers in his arms into the room and settling them down. In order to prevent the topic from moving in an unfavorable direction, Fusuke took the initiative to change the subject. How is it going? Hearing this, Ayako didn't say much, but roughly informed Fusuke of the current situation of the Uchiha clan. Jonin lost nearly 20, Shunin lost more than 50, and Genin lost several. The overall casualties of the ninjas in the clan were about 30%, and there were basically no civilian casualties. Ayako explained the loss of the Uchiha clan to Fusuke in a concise manner. As the strongest ninja clan in the ninja world today, Uchiha, who has been working in Konoha for many years, is undoubtedly extremely powerful. There are probably more than 1,000 members of the Uchiha clan. 1/3 of them have ninja status, and the number is about 400. Among the group of more than 400 ninjas, there are about 50 Jonin. With this power, Uchiha can easily wipe out some small ninja villages. Especially the Jonin ratio of the Uchiha clan is quite terrifying. Even within the 5 great ninja villages where talented people are born. The ratio of Jonin to ordinary ninjas is about 100 to 1. That is to say, of the 100 genin who graduate from the ninja school, only 1 will eventually become a Jonin. Take Konoha for example, there are probably about 20,000 ninjas active in Konoha. Among them, the number of Jonin is probably less than 300. This shows Jonin's status and value. In some small ninja villages, Jonin is even enough to become the leader of the village and ethnic group. Among the 400 ninjas of the Uchiha clan, there are actually as many as 50 Jonin, a ratio of 8 to 1. Among the 8 Uchiha ninjas, 1 of them is Jonin. This terrifying strength also gave Uchiha the confidence to dare to rebel. Just after a rebellion, the Uchiha clan is also seriously injured. However, such a loss can be considered acceptable. After all, the basic foundation of the ethnic group is still there, so it doesn't mean it's a strain. And things can be divided into 2 ends, good and bad. Most of the Uchiha ninjas who died in this rebellion were die-hards, who were restless and self-defeating. 12 Arrogance, stubbornness, extreme. All shortcomings that can be found in Uchiha ninjas can basically be seen in these guys. Take Uchiha Kagami for example. Most of these people have been adhering to the ancient and stubborn ideas of the Uchiha clan since the Uchiha Shimada period. They are all old schools of thought that are still clinging to the past. It is precisely because of the obstruction of this group of people that the Uchiha clan has never been able to integrate into Konoha. After cleaning up this group of people, Uchiha's strength will be damaged in the short term. But this is like scraping the bones to cure the poison. After eliminating these die-hards, from now on, the Uchiha clan will completely integrate into Konoha and eradicate all the shortcomings of the past. Not only Ayako understands this, but the 4 of them also know it clearly. So what do you have in mind next, Ayako? So Fusuke simply spoke to Ayako and discussed Uchiha's future together. I plan to abolish the clan territory that has been wandering on the edge of Konoha. Imitate the Hyuga clan. Move all the tribesmen to live in the village. I would also encourage my tribe to join Anbu. Open the gate of the security force and face all the ninjas in the village. Ayako spoke slowly, with a hint of brilliance in her beautiful eyes. As the most wealthy ninja family with rich wealth, spending money to buy a piece of land inside Konoha is certainly nothing to Uchiha. Her actions were not unwise. The guard force has been the private domain of the Uchiha clan for many years. Although nominally under the jurisdiction of Konoha's top brass, basically everyone knows that the Uchiha clan has a high degree of autonomy over the security forces. Even the top management of Konoha cannot place personnel within it. Now Ayako is willing to open the door to the security force. It is a show of goodwill to the village and sharing the benefits. It is also tied to Konoha through the interests in hand, promoting the integration of Uchiha and Konoha, and permanently preventing Uchiha from being isolated by Konoha. Then join Anbu's two-way rush through the Uchiha ninja. From now on, the new Uchiha will gain the trust of Konoha and completely escape the dangerous situation of isolation. Okay, I support you. I will inform Minato and Tsukumo of the situation and ask the village to give Uchiha the green light. After hearing Ayako's thoughts, Fusuke nodded in approval. Both for the Uchiha clan and Konoha. This is all a good thing. Starting tomorrow, the Uchiha family will completely enter a new era. With a simple exchange, the matter was completely finalized. The waves in Ayako's charming eyes flowed, and the charming spring slowly overflowed from them. Then, she slowly stood up, walked gently to Fusuke's side and sat down next to him. Feeling the poppy-like fragrance in his nose, Fusuke's body suddenly became a little stiff. BB, I have one more thing to report to you. Advertisement. Ayako murmured coquettishly, leaning against Fusuke's body gently. As the dress swung, Ayako's long legs with perfect curves were exposed. A pair of translucent black stockings stuck on her thighs just right, making a slight dent in her plump and white, absolute realm. Gudong W. Fusuke swallowed immediately and looked back, looking at his nose and mouth with concern. What else? Fusuke pretended to be serious and resisted the succubus' tricks. Dalla. Ayako just chuckled, then continued to lean close to Fusuke and whispered, insignificant, little things. Except this. There is another situation. After inspection, it was found that the corpses of many traitorous ninjas in the clan were missing large eyeballs. It shouldn't be a big deal, Ayako said softly, and at the same time, her weak and boneless body kept moving closer to Fusuke's arms. The fragrant fragrance rushed straight into Fusuke's nostrils, making him feel a little hot. Brother, it's late at night. Saying that, Ayako fell into Fusuke's arms. A pair of charming and passionate eyes looked directly into Fusuke's pupils, as if they were about to turn into a pool of spring water. Fusuke was a little afraid to meet Ayako's passionate eyes, so he tilted his head. Suddenly, he seemed to have thought of something. You said the rebel ninja's eyeballs are missing a lot. Fusuke asked again, suddenly frowning. Quote. Ayako didn't realize anything was wrong at all, she just said softly and put her jade cheek to Fang's ear. Huh, that's it. Fusuke's brows suddenly relaxed, and a look of deep concern flashed in his eyes. In just an instant, he had already figured out the reason for the missing eyeball. GG. Ayako murmured, her breathing a little quick, and her delicate red lips getting closer and closer to the corner of Fang's mouth. Feeling Ayako's intense emotions, Fusuke's heart quickly returned to clarity. He stretched out his hand slightly and hugged Ayako gently. Ayako also closed her eyes in embarrassment, waiting for the next surprise. Looking at Ayako, who closed her eyes and waited nervously. There was a hint of hesitation in Fusuke's eyes. At this moment, Tobirama's advice seemed to come to his mind again. The person who originally planned to refuse also felt a little relaxed in his heart. The next second, Ayako felt a warm touch on her lips. This feeling is only fleeting, and then separated immediately. Sorry, Ayako. Someone has stolen a large amount of Sharingan, I'll go over first, Kusaka. Then, Ayako heard a gentle, slightly apologetic male voice ringing in her ears. The next second, the warm embrace left her. When she opened her eyes again, there were already 10 people in front of her. Ayako's charming eyes that were about to melt suddenly became hollow and lost, exuding bursts of gloomy emotions. She touched her delicate and red lips blankly, as if the feeling on her lips just now was just an illusion. Recalling the fleeting warm touch on her lips just now, Ayako's eyes became clear again. But compared to before, her eyes were more profound and dark. Giggle. As expected, he escaped again, Fusuke ni. But it doesn't matter, you won't be able to escape soon. Ayako smiled foolishly and murmured in a low voice, a trace of gloom flashed in her gray eyes. The other side. After Fusuke left, feeling the restless blood, a trace of helplessness flashed across his face. He almost became acquainted with Ayako once and for all. This wave is the extreme pressure gun. 27, TN. 40. In the dim cave, a strange man wearing an orange vortex mask was sitting in front of a table, counting the spherical objects in the bag in front of him. And hidden inside the cloth bag were scarlet eyeballs with magatama in their pupils. He kept chanting silently, calculating the number of eyes in the bag. Quote. 48. It's a pity that there are only 6 pairs of 3 magatama. This generation of clan members are really getting more and more stretched. Uchiha Obito complained while sealing the bag in his hand carefully. After a night of harvesting, Obito obtained 24 pairs of Sharingan from Uchiha's traitorous ninja. And his eye power has been completely restored. But when he thought about losing 2 right-hand men, he couldn't help but feel a little depressed. Quote dot 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 dot. Those two idiots. But at least these Sharingan were harvested. It makes up for some losses. Advertisement. Obito first cursed through gritted teeth, and then let out a long sigh of relief with a weak voice. Fortunately, this wave is not considered, losing the wife and losing the troops. 53. Why do you suddenly feel a little sleepy? It's almost dawn, let me take a nap first. Suddenly, Obito felt that his upper and lower eyelids were fighting, so he just lay down on the table. Zishang planned to take a nap for a while. Obito let out a slight cry. Quote dot 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 dot. A figure gradually changed from transparent to solid, and suddenly appeared quietly behind Obito. Secret technique. Dust-free and cold. This is the auxiliary secret technique used by second Tsuchikage to become invisible in the original work. It can be regarded as a little addition that Fusuke got while studying bloodline elimination. Jiraiya. Master, please teach me just once. Fusuke looked at Obito, who was sleeping peacefully and contentedly, with a glimmer of satisfaction in his eyes. When Ayako mentioned the matter of a large number of rebel ninjas missing their eyeballs, Fusuke made a guess. This may be because Obito had overused Mangekyo before, and in order to restore his power, he sneaked into Konoha to take advantage of the troubled waters. Add the appearance of fire and darkness. This greatly increases the possibility. Therefore, Fusuke simply activated the Flying Thunder God coordinates left on Obito earlier and came to find out. As expected, as soon as he arrived, he saw Obito lying in front of the table, counting the trophies. As an elder, it's not easy for me to come and be a guest with Shishi's family. Fusuke. Guest. That is a junior. Obito was too embarrassed to let his elders go back empty-handed, right? So Fusuke calmly used a move, the improved version of Nirvana technique. Different from the extremely eye-catching feathers of the original. After the improved version of Fusuke, the enemy can be made calm. After putting Obito into a deep sleep, Fusuke appeared. Then, without being polite to Obito, he picked up the bag containing 48 Sharingans on the table and turned around to leave. But suddenly, Fusuke's movements were hesitant. He turned around again and looked at the defenseless Obito, with a trace of struggle flashing in his eyes. It's over, the money-obsessed attribute has been violated. Fusuke secretly thought to himself, and unconsciously stretched his hand towards Obito's eyes. After all, how can some ordinary Sharingan be as valuable as Kamui? Fusuke's fingers were about to clasp into Obito's eyes. In the end, reason prevailed over the money-obsessed instinct, and Fusuke forcibly took the money back. After all, if the tool man of Obito's Kamui is taken away, it will be completely useless. Without Obito's push, Fang Ji's deepest thoughts will fall into place. Why? With a helpless sigh and a roar, Fusuke dodged and left the cave. Only Obito was left sleeping soundly on the table. 8 hours later, after enjoying a wave of baby-like sleep, Obito opened his eyes. He stood up and stretched slowly. I had a great sleep last night. After stretching and roaring, Obito said with satisfaction, his face under the mask was full of joy. But as soon as he lowered his head, his expression suddenly changed. Where is my TM Sharingan? Accompanied by a heart-rending cry. Obito, who had just enjoyed a baby-like sleep, began to rummage around in the cave. After a while, Obito sat slumped in the messy cave with an autistic look on his face, quietly doubting life. Since how Senju Tobirama was killed by the Golden Horn and Silver Horn brothers. The next unsolved mystery of the ninja world appears again. That means, where is Sharingan when I ride on a horse? After being in isolation for several days, Obito walked out of the cave again. In the past few days, the various simulated memories in his mind are enough to form a suspense detective drama that exceeds 80 years. There is only one title for the play, Where's Sharingan? But no matter what he thought, he couldn't figure out what was going on. If it was stolen by someone, then this person could reach him silently, so why not kill him directly? This is totally against common sense. Obito even suspected rats in caves and beasts in the forest. But no matter. The loss of Sharingan is already a fact, no matter how hard Obito struggles, it is useless. In the end, Obito could only continue to promote Eye of the Moon, with an extremely sad heart. Uchiha Fusuke. Thinking of this name, Obito felt heavy in his heart. Facing this demon-like man, Obito couldn't think of any way to defeat him head-on. But the plan still has to go ahead. The loss of Yan and Dark made King now need to find new helpers. The situation over at Shao needs to be advanced quickly. Obito thought silently in his heart, and then used Kamui to rush towards the land of rain. Chapter 86, Konoha, I'm back. Make Mangekyo in bulk. Advertisement. Konoha. At this moment, Orochimaru is sitting in a tavern, chatting and drinking with Jiraiya. Before today, the two had not seen each other for more than 10 years. Since Fusuke's seclusion, Orochimaru, who follows Fusuke, has been obsessed with scientific research every day and has not been involved in worldly affairs for many years. Goodbye old friends, naturally there is an inevitable conversation between Yinji and Jiraiya. After some pushing and changing cups. As a scientist, Orochimaru still looks normal and maintains a clear mind. But Jiraiya was already drunk, and kept chattering to Orochimaru with a big tongue. Tsunade is coming back soon. I wonder when we can get together again. Jiraiya said in an expectant voice, with a hint of joy in his eyes. It's been so many years and you still haven't let go. A hint of wisdom flashed in Orochimaru's cold snake eyes. He knew in his heart that Jiraiya was a drunkard who doesn't care about drinking. I'm afraid he was embarrassed to be alone with Tsunade and used him as a shield. Ha ha ha. Jiraiya chuckled and scratched the back of his head. Then, he immediately changed the topic. I'll tell you. I found 3 good seedlings in the Kingdom of Rain. One of them, burps. But the legendary, immortal eyes. When Jiraiya drinks too much, he loses control of his mouth and says everything outside. After saying that, he realized something was wrong. Don't tell the old man. Then he immediately added to Orochimaru, seemingly worried that Fusuke would find out. Don't tell me what. At this moment, an elegant and peaceful voice suddenly came from behind Jiraiya. Hearing the sound, Jiraiya was suddenly frightened. Nothing, nothing. He quickly waved his hand behind him. What caught my eye was Fusuke's handsome smiling face. Fusuke took a deep look at Jiraiya, who looked embarrassed, but didn't mean to delve too deeply into it. Master, why are you here? Jiraiya smiled and moved, making way for Fusuke. It's okay, I'm here to find the little snake. With that said, Fusuke handed the cloth bag in his hand to Orochimaru. Orochimaru took the bag, opened it and took a look inside. Hiss. At that moment, Orochimaru's snake pupils shrank suddenly and he took a sharp breath of air. The next second, Orochimaru's emerald green eyes were filled with enthusiasm. He carefully put away the cloth bag in his hand, as if he was handling some treasure worth 10,000 gold. Teacher, go back to the laboratory. Now, immediately, right. He stood up suddenly and grabbed Fusuke's arm tremblingly. Fusuke came to look for Orochimaru, originally to return to the flower world. Jiraiya, I will take the little snake to take the first step. See you later. Immediately, Fusuke said goodbye to Jiraiya. Seeing friends and teachers he hadn't seen for many years leaving in a hurry, a trace of loneliness flashed in Jiraiya's eyes. See you later, Master, Orochimaru. Jiraiya forced a smile and said goodbye to Fang and Orochi. But at this moment, Orochimaru's eyes were fixed on the cloth bag in his hand, and his ears had selectively ignored Jiraiya's voice. Whoosh, accompanied by a slight sound. Fusuke took Orochimaru and left here. Quote. After the two left, Jiraiya sighed softly. I don't know how Yahiko and the others are doing. Jiraiya once again picked up the wine glass in front of him and took a sip. He suddenly missed his disciples far away in his heart. Laboratory. It was late at night, and Fusuke wanted to take a rest before starting research tomorrow. But Orochimaru, who was impatient, couldn't bear it, and kept up the research all night long. Therefore, Fusuke and Orochimaru could only store the Sharingan in the bag into glassware first. That's right. What Fusuke and Orochimaru are going to study is the Sharingan that Fusuke, conveniently, picked up from a junior's house. Original. Fusuke also has no intention of using the body parts of his tribe for inhumane research. But helpless. Rather than letting it fall into Obito's hands, it's better for him to keep it. And since we have already obtained so many Sharingans, it would be a waste not to study them. So Fusuke chose to develop it together with Orochimaru. Advertisement. Teacher, how do you plan to deal with so many Sharingans? Facing such good research material as Sharingan, Orochimaru's spirit was full of excitement. It is different from Orochimaru's ultimate desire for the Sharingan, Emperor in the original work after many setbacks. Orochimaru's current enthusiasm for Sharingan is simply out of his love for research. Fusuke glanced at the 24 pairs of Sharingan in front of him. Most of them are double Magatama and single Magatama, and their value is extremely limited. I plan to culture these Sharingan using Hashirama cells. Try to let these Sharingan break through the current state and reach a higher stage. Fusuke told Orochimaru his thoughts. In other words, once it succeeds, it means we can mass-produce Mangekyo Sharingan. Following Fusuke's train of thought, Orochimaru immediately thought of a possibility. Good. Fusuke confirmed Orochimaru's train of thought. Hearing the sound, Yin Shiwan's eyes were filled with excitement. The thought of mass-producing Mangekyo made his scientific blood boil. So, Orochimaru, who was already impatient, took away a pair of 3 Tomo Sharingan and started experimenting. Quote. Seeing this, Fusuke could only shake his head helplessly and started the experiment with Orochi. I do not know how long it has been. Failure, failure, failure. In just one night, 3 pairs of 6 pairs of 3 Magatama were scrapped. It is known that Senju cells have a complementary effect on Sharingan. Therefore, after adding Hashirama cells, 3 Tomo Sharingan will expand rapidly and begin to evolve towards Mangekyo. But without exception, every time at critical moments, the evolution of these 3 Magatama would fall short and completely fail. And because the backlash of Hashirama cells is too overbearing, it will completely devour the 3 Magatama and reduce it to a piece of wood. After several studies failed, Fusuke changed his mind and chose to dilute the power of Hashirama cells. But after several attempts, I still can't push the 3 Magatama to the level of Mangekyo. Finally, Fusuke and Orochimaru determined that Mangekyo Sharingan is indeed not something that can be cultivated artificially. But their research is not meaningless. At least among the 48 Sharingans, except for the 6 lost during research. All the remaining 42 have evolved to the level of 3 Magatama. It's just that I can't go any further. It seems that 3 Magatama is the limit. After catalyzing the last single Magatama to the level of 3 Magatama, Fusuke sighed tiredly. That's right. Orochimaru on the side also nodded in agreement with Fusuke's point of view. Quote. X2. Both of them sighed helplessly and then walked out of the laboratory. It was only then that Fusuke realized that 3 days had passed. Fusuke rested for 2 more days and stayed with Lin, who was a little lonely, before he received the news from Konoha. The last candidate for the 5th Hokage, Tsunade, returned to the village. Minato asked Fusuke to go back and preside over the 5th Hokage selection ceremony. At this point, Feng Jietuan once again embarked on the road back to Yi. In front of Konoha's gate, a dusty woman stopped in front of the gate of Konoha with a black-haired beggar. Looking at this majestic door that I haven't seen for a long time, familiar yet unfamiliar. Tsunade's eyes looked a little excited. Konoha, I'm back. Tsunade's face was full of excitement, and there was a bit of urgency and excitement in his heart. After nearly 10 days of driving without sleep, she was finally about to meet the person who had always been cold-hearted. Tsunade-sama, shall we wash up and change clothes first? Shizune spoke weakly to Tsunade, her tone weak and feeble. Hearing the sound, Tsunade turned to look at the mute type beside him. Shizune's originally delicate face turned a little sallow, and her hair became a mess due to neglect. Even Shizune's clothes looked extremely tattered at the moment, like a beggar who went to the city to beg for alms. In front of the Konoha gate, the passers-by all cast pity on Shizune. If Shizune is willing to place a bowl in front of him at this moment, there will be a kind person willing to put some national money in Shizune's bowl. At this moment, Tsunade suddenly realized how embarrassed the two of them looked. In panic, she quickly found a mirror and looked at herself. Although she doesn't look as pitiful as Shizune, she is really miserable. Turn out to be. In order to reach Konoha as soon as possible, Tsunade and Shizune traveled almost non-stop for several days. Fortunately for Tsunade, after all, he has the bloodline of Senju of the Forest, and has the support of cage-level strength, so his endurance is extraordinary. But little Shizune, who had been starved for 8 meals in 10 days, could no longer bear it. Well, that being said, it's really time to fix it up. Looking at his haggard look in the mirror, Tsunade decided to freshen up. Call. Poor little Shizune breathed a sigh of relief. Because if she continues to toss like this endlessly, she is afraid that she will not be far away from dying. Advertisement. At this moment, a distinctive red-eyed ninja came to the two of them. Tsunade just looked at it and recognized that this was a Kunoichi from the Uchiha clan. Tsunade-sama, please come with me, the patriarch has something to say. The Uchiha ninja spoke respectfully to Tsunade. Hearing the sound, Tsunade's amber jewel eyes narrowed slightly, with a hint of danger flashing in his eyes. In an instant, she seemed to think of some unpleasant memory again. Memories. Tsunade eager, Sister Ayako, are you really willing to tell me where Master lives in seclusion? Ayako, embarrassed, of course, but I don't know the specific location of Fangji. I can only tell you a rough idea. He is. Tsunade, in disbelief, what? The place where Master lives in seclusion is so far away. Ayako, smiling charmingly, he is afraid that others will disturb him, otherwise how can he be called seclusion? Recalling some unpleasant memories, Tsunade subconsciously clenched her silver teeth. Obviously, Nasho didn't realize that she had been deceived until this moment. This, fox lady, she said bitterly, with a trace of dissatisfaction flashing in her eyes. Just leave. I just want to talk to your patriarch about something. Tsunade said in a low voice. Anyone could see that she was angry and unhappy now. Shizune, just go home first. Then, Tsunade turned around and ordered Shizune beside him. Quote. Shizune responded weakly, but when she looked at Tsunade's eyes that seemed to be spitting fire, she couldn't help but say something more. Tsunade-sama, please be dignified when the time comes. Control your temper. Shizune asked with some worry, but as she looked into Tsunade's increasingly angry eyes, her voice began to weaken little by little. Shizune, now let me teach you another lesson. Girls just want to be happy with each other. If you have a grudge, you should avenge it early. If you like it, you should tell it early. Do you understand it? Tsunade taught Shizune so seriously that his small hands had already clenched into fists unconsciously. Shizune, head, but helplessly, looking at Tsunade's round little fist, Shizune still shrank his neck and reluctantly responded. Seeing this, Tsunade nodded with satisfaction and followed the Uchiha Kunoichi who led the way to Ayako's residence. Originally, Tsunade was preparing to walk towards the Uchiha clan land, outside the village. But unexpectedly, this Uchiha Kunoichi actually took Tsunade towards the village. Please come with me. Seemingly sensing the surprise in Tsunade's eyes, the Kunoichi explained. Seeing this, Tsunade stopped asking any more questions. When she got there, she would naturally know what kind of medicine the female fox was selling in the gourd. Soon, following the Kunoichi's guidance, the two of them reached the depths of Konoha. This is where the wealthy Donin clan of Konoha, Zhaohao, lives. It is regarded as the noble district in Konoha village. Even Tsunade's home, Senju Mansion, is not far ahead. At this moment, on Noble Street, the residences that originally belonged to Sarutobi, Shimura, and several other ninja clans have been demolished. And even the surrounding open space has been put into vigorous construction. Although it is still under construction, it is not difficult to tell who the owner is who is about to move in here through the Tuanfan family emblem erected in front of the construction site. And at the end of the road, there is a very grand mansion. There are a few big characters written on the front door of the mansion. Third Hokage House. Seeing this, Tsunade's delicate body trembled, and a complicated look flashed in his eyes. Does Master live here? Tsunade was startled and suddenly had a somewhat bad idea. Thinking of her current appearance, Tsunade's heart suddenly thumped. It's over, I've fallen for that fox girl. Thinking of her haggard look about to be reflected in Fusuke's eyes, Tsunade secretly thought something bad. Tsunade-sama, we're here. The patriarch is waiting for you inside. Uchiha Kunoichi pointed at the Third Hokage house, Sannin said. Hearing this, Tsunade gritted her teeth, knowing that by now she was ready to retire. Helpless, she could only not rush into it with a complicated and anxious mood. Inside the house, Ayako sensed Tsunade's arrival early in the morning. Sure enough, count the time. She should come back at this time. Ayako said secretly in her heart. Tsunade's approximate destination was assigned by her, so it's not surprising that Ayako calculated Tsunade's approximate return time. She had already sent people to wait at the entrance of the village a day in advance, with the purpose of bringing Tsunade to her as soon as possible. At this moment, there was no one except Ayako in the room. There is also a little brother, holding a baby in his arms. It was Uchiha Itachi who was thrown to Ayako by Fusuke that day. Chapter 87, Him. I went to buy diapers for my child, Ayako's plan. Advertisement. After the deaths of Uchiha Fugaku and Uchiha Makoto. As the leader of the Uchiha clan, it is natural for Ayako to take care of Itachi and Sasuke, the new orphans. As the saying goes, gold will shine wherever it is. Ayako has also noticed Itachi's outstanding talent. Therefore, she did not choose to leave Itachi and Sasuke to the clan, but took them with her temporarily. Ayako looked sideways slightly. Seeing the little boy Itachi with red lips and white teeth, and the little Sasuke in Itachi's arms, she seemed to have thought of something fun. At that moment, a smile with unknown meaning appeared on the corner of Ayako's mouth. Master Patriarch. As if sensing Ayako's gaze, kid brother, Itachi said uneasily. Ever since he was left to Ayako by Fusuke that day, Itachi was still feeling a little uneasy in the past few days. As an overly precocious kid brother, Uchiha Itachi knew very well that the dignified and generous patriarch in front of him did not seem to be that kind-hearted. Therefore, he is extremely concerned about Ayako's attitude. Call me mother. But who would have expected that Ayako suddenly spoke to Itachi in a tone that left no room for doubt? Hearing the sound, Itachi was suddenly startled, with a trace of embarrassment in his eyes. At this moment, all kinds of thoughts flashed through Itachi's heart. Master Patriarch, are you planning to accept me as your adopted son? At that moment, Itachi's heart became a little complicated. After both parents died, for the two brothers who were like duckweed, it seemed that having Uchiha Ayako as their adoptive mother was a good result. People under the eaves have to bow their heads. Itachi also gritted his teeth and finally chose to adopt the fox as his mother. Little did I know, Ayako actually did this just to have fun. Mother, sir. Weasel scratched his neck and shouted these 4 words with great difficulty. Hearing the sound, Ayako's smile became even brighter. Sit next to me, Ayako said again, her tone calm and gentle. Yes, Itachi was unable to disobey, so he could only sit next to Ayako obediently. At this moment, no matter in terms of hair color, attributes or appearance, the first and second children really look like mother and son. By the way, because he was temporarily taken in by Ayako, the clothes Itachi was wearing at the moment were all prepared by Ayako. Therefore, this clothing is very similar to Ayako's style, and it looks a bit like parent-child clothing. At this moment, Tsunade, who was dusty outside the door, walked into the house, looking a little embarrassed. And she just entered the house. I saw 3 Uchiha, 1 large, 2 small, sitting in front of the tea room where they were receiving guests. At that moment, Tsunade's pupils shrank violently, and his body trembled violently. Ayako saw Tsunade's arrival from a distance, and she was not in a hurry to say hello to Tsunade. Instead, he gently took little Sasuke away from Itachi who looked worried. Ayako looked at the infant Sasuke with a loving look on her face, as if this was really her child. In the distance, in Tsunade's eyes, Ayako, who had a soft face at the moment, was exuding the brilliance of motherhood. Tsunade's somewhat distracted eyes kept scanning Ayako, Itachi and Sasuke. Hair color, appearance. Tsunade glanced across it. Finally, a terrifying thought came into her mind. Is this the child of Master and this fox girl? It's still too woo. Thinking of this possibility, Tsunade felt a little broken inside. Her pupils were dilated and trembling slightly, and her heart was filled with sour pain. Seeing Tsunade's stiff and gloomy expression, the joy in Ayako's eyes became more obvious. Her charming eyes had turned into crescent moons at this moment. Oh, pull, it's little Tsunade. What are you doing standing there stupidly? Come and sit down. Ayako stood up holding little Sasuke and greeted Tsunade. 1. Hearing the sound, Tsunade withdrew his dull and distracted gaze. She tried her best to drive her stiff and cold limbs towards Ayako, her movements were like a puppet lacking lubrication. Under Ayako's greeting, Tsunade sat across from Ayako with difficulty. After Tsunade sat down, Ayako didn't mean to speak in a hurry. Instead, She teased little Sasuke in her arms with a loving look on her face, perfectly interpreting the image of a loving mother. And this scene became more and more dazzling in Tsunade's eyes. When she thought that what Ayako was holding in her arms might be her and Fusuke's child, Tsunade suddenly felt as if her heart was cut by a knife. Teacher, where is the master? Finally, Tsunade, who couldn't hold himself any longer, took the initiative to ask in a stiff and trembling voice. Ah, are you talking about him? Going to buy diapers for the child? Ayako deliberately pretended to look dazed and happy, and said softly to Tsunade as if by accident. Click. A sound like glass breaking came from Tsunade's heart. Looking at the happy, fox girl, Tsunade's heart became increasingly gloomy and despairing. This is it. Advertisement. She struggled to squeeze out such a sentence from her throat, her voice seemed a bit dry and hoarse. Tsunade found it hard to accept the cruel reality in front of him. Toye. Woo-woo. Impossible. How could it be possible that master suffered at the hands of this fox woman like this? Tsunade kept whining in her heart, she couldn't believe that she was still fine when she left. Upon returning home, has been abandoned by Uchiha Ayako. Not only that, Ayako has even bulldozed her home and planted flowers on it. No matter when, people will inevitably have a lucky mentality. Although there was irrefutable evidence before his eyes, Tsunade still didn't give up until he saw the Yellow River. He is. Tsunade raised his trembling arm and pointed at the well-behaved kid brother, Uchiha Itachi on the other side and struggled to ask. Oh, I almost forgot to introduce. Weasel calls. This is your Aunt Tsunade. Ayako suddenly turned to Itachi next to her with an expression of sudden realization, and spoke. Of course Itachi also felt this strange atmosphere lingering between Tsunade and Ayako. But Itachi, who was only 6 years old at the moment, obviously couldn't understand what this strange atmosphere was. At the moment, he just obeyed Ayako's words obediently. Yes, mother. Hello Aunt Tsunade, Itachi said with a well-behaved face, looking very well-behaved and pleasant. As the saying goes, once born, twice cooked. This time Itachi opened his mouth to call Ayako mother, and it no longer felt awkward as before, but became very smooth and natural. Hearing these two words in Tsunade's ears, the effect was no less than triggering a nuclear explosion in her heart. It's a hammer now. Gee. Tsunade muttered to himself absent-mindedly. At this time, Tsunade finally gave up in despair. The child tall in front of him must be Ayako and Fang's child. As for Ayako having children with other men, she wouldn't believe it even if she killed Tsunade. With Uchiha Ayako's almost paranoid feelings towards Fusuke, it is impossible for her to fall in love with anyone except Fusuke. She stared blankly at Uchiha Itachi's young face. Itachi's appearance is certainly not bad, and with his unique mature temperament, he looks more and more like someone. Under psychological influence, Itachi's young face with red lips and white teeth actually overlapped little by little with Uchiha Fusuke's. Silence. The table fell into a long silence. Tsunade's body continued to tremble, and she clenched her fists so hard that her tender, green-white knuckles turned a little white from her pinching. She bit her lower lip tightly, her eye circles began to turn red, and her beautiful jewel-like eyes completely lost their color. Seeing that Tsunade seemed about to cry, the rope on the other side tightened. She knew it would be too much if she continued to play. Itachi, let's go play with Sasuke. Ayako gave little Sasuke back to Itachi. After taking Sasuke, Itachi breathed a sigh of relief and quickly carried Sasuke to the other side. After all, in Itachi's subconscious mind, leaving Sasuke in Ayako's hands was still a relatively dangerous thing. Wait until brother kid leaves. When did this happen? Tsunade's eyes were red and he asked Ayako in a hoarse voice. Pooch. Seeing Tsunade's appearance, Ayako finally couldn't hold it in any longer, BCBH, and burst out laughing. Seeing Ayako suddenly laugh, Tsunade's heart was filled with sadness and anger. Why are you laughing? She asked Ayako with a trembling voice, her eyes a little red. Grr. Unexpectedly, after seeing this scene, Ayako was laughing so much that she looked like a beautiful flower in full bloom. As the saying goes, women in love have negative IQs. This is the so-called care leads to chaos. Ayako's actions at this moment reawakened Tsunade's reason. It is precisely because she cares so much about Uchiha Fusuke that Tsunade loses judgment on some things. Obviously, as the majestic third Hokage, Uchiha Fusuke really gave birth to offspring. How could Tsunade, Sannin, not know anything about it? What's more, Itachi is already 6 years old. 6 years ago, Tsunade was still in the village and had never heard of Fusuke returning to the village. Therefore, no matter how you look at it, Ayako has neither the time nor the conditions to commit the crime. After thinking about this, Tsunade suddenly understood. She was tricked by Ayako. Uchiha, you stinky fox. Tsunade shouted angrily, and his blonde hair seemed to stand on end. All the old and new hatred suddenly flooded into Tsunade's heart. She stared at Ayako Uchiha who was still smiling on the other side with extremely resentment. The shame and anger in her heart made her unable to restrain herself any longer. At that moment, Tsunade directly raised his fist and swung it directly at Ayako's pretty face that looked extremely hateful at the moment. Call. Under Tsunade's strange power, there was a violent sound of breaking wind from her fist. But in the face of Tsunade's angry blow, Ayako's expression remained extremely calm. She slowly spoke 4 words and let. Tsunade's fist suddenly stopped an inch in front of her. Advertisement. He's leaving. Just 4 words made Tsunade's movements stop abruptly. Then, reason returned to Tsunade's brain again. Why is it like this again? She murmured feebly and sat back down. The wind from Tsunade's fist ruffled Ayako's hair. She slightly raised her hair and looked at Tsunade, who was a little disappointed. This time, he returned to the village because of the unrest in Nine Tails. Minato is dying soon, you are the right candidate for the new Hokage. So after he helps you sit in the Hokage position, he will leave. Now that you're back, it's time for him to leave. Ayako said leisurely, not feeling sad at all because Fusuke was leaving soon. Hearing this, Tsunade remained silent where he was. Ayako's words undoubtedly revealed a fact that she was least willing to face. That is, even if she rushes back to the village and meets Uchiha Fusuke, she still can't solve any problem. Because no one can keep Uchiha Fusuke. Ayako can't do it, and neither can she. But I have a way. Keep him from leaving. At this moment, Ayako suddenly spoke again, with a bit of confidence in her voice. Hearing the sound, Tsunade's beautiful gem eyes regained a bit of sparkle. Any solution? She asked Ayako eagerly. She didn't continue to be angry because Ayako teased her several times. You have to refuse to be a Hokage. Ayako didn't show off, but looked directly into Tsunade's beautiful eyes and spoke word by word. Upon hearing this, Tsunade's originally hopeful eyes turned to disappointment again. You underestimate Master. Even if I don't serve as Hokage, he will help others take the position of Hokage and then leave again. It's not like he's never done this before. Tsunade said with a wry smile, his eyes full of depression and gloom. Suddenly, memories of the day came to Tsunade's mind. A dozen years ago, the sun was setting in the west, and the golden afternoon sunlight shone into Hokage's office. The girl Tsunade opened the door of Hokage's office with excitement. In the office, the handsome Hokage sat behind the desk, processing documents. The golden sunshine shone on his handsome and extraordinary profile, full of infinite charm. Staring at Fusuke's profile, Tsunade's eyes flashed with lust. Xiao Gang, you are here. Upon hearing Tsunade's arrival, Fusuke stopped what he was doing, raised his head and smiled gently. Hehe, Master, what do you want from me? Did you miss me? The girl Tsunade playfully said to Fusuke, her amber gem eyes filled with excitement. Ha ha, yes, after all, I haven't seen my cute little apprentice all day long. Fusuke smiled softly and spoke to Tsunade warmly, with a hint of endearment in his eyes. Master. Hearing this, Tsunade smiled proudly and jumped directly into Fusuke's arms. In desperation, Fusuke could only hug Tsunade and hold him in his arms. You are so grown up, why are you still so childish? Fusuke angrily lectured Tsunade in his arms. But Tsunade still looked unfazed. Seeing this, Fusuke's eyes flashed with helplessness. Okay, let's get down to business. Suna-chan, you told me that you wanted to become a Hokage. Inherit the mantle of first generation and second generation. I'm already planning to retire. I'll leave it to you to be the next Hokage. Fusuke spoke softly to Tsunade in his arms, his tone still gentle and doting. Ah, okay. Tsunade, who didn't realize the seriousness of the problem at the moment, immediately responded, his tone full of surprise. After all, becoming a Hokage is Tsunade's second ideal after marrying Fusuke. That's it. Seeing this, Fusuke smiled slightly. Tsunade nodded, but suddenly, she seemed to realize something. Master, why do you want to retire? Tsunade asked immediately, with a bit of confusion in her beautiful eyes. Because I want to leave Konoha and live in seclusion in a deserted place. Fusuke didn't hide what Tsunade meant. He smiled and answered Tsunade with a trace of yearning in his eyes. Leave, Konoha, Tsunade murmured in his mouth, and a hint of solemnity suddenly flashed in his eyes. Only then did she realize it. Once she takes over as Hokage, it means that she cannot leave Konoha, and it also means losing the opportunity to see Fusuke. Chapter 88, Fusuke's Harem Trends. Countdown to Emotional Offensive. Advertisement. After realizing this, Tsunade changed his attitude instantly. Master, why? She asked Fusuke anxiously. Then you take me with you. Tsunade suddenly thought of something, and a glimmer of light flashed in his eyes again. But in response, Fusuke just shook his head lightly and rejected Tsunade's request. Seeing this, Tsunade was shocked. Over the years, Fusuke has doted on Tsunade and basically never refused her request. This was the first time that Fusuke rejected her so directly without any room for turning. Next, no matter how hard Tsunade begged, Fang still refused to let go. Suddenly, Tsunade seemed to think of a solution. Then I won't be a Hokage. Master, you are not allowed to leave. Tsunade said willfully. She thought that as long as she refused to take over the Hokage, Fusuke couldn't leave and could only stay in Muto. Nonsense. This time, Fusuke finally got a little angry. Seeing Fusuke's expression changed, Tsunade thought her plan had succeeded. So he got even more serious, saying that he didn't want to be a Hokage, trying to get Fusuke to stay. As everyone knows, the reason why Fusuke is angry is because she is so playful about the position of Hokage. Result. After a while, Namikaze Minato took over the position of the fourth Hokage. The third Hokage Uchiha Fusuke quietly left Konoha and disappeared in front of Tsunade. After recalling past events, Tsunade has no hope for Ayako's childish ideas. You are right, even if you refuse to be Hokage. But with Brother Fusuke's ability, it is not difficult to select and train a qualified Hokage. It seemed that she could see Tsunade's inner thoughts, but Ayako still didn't care about it. She even affirmed Tsunade's words. Hearing the sound, Tsunade looked up at Ayako again. Why did Siwanzi do such useless work? Ajaj, don't worry, I have a way. You just have to do what I say. This time, Fusuke ni will not leave again. Ayako's charming eyes suddenly shined with a gleam of light, filled with endless greed. Seeing Ayako's eyes, Suna was shocked. She knew that with the character of the fox girl in front of her, she would never go blind. What exactly are you going to do? Tsunade frowned and asked again, a trace of struggle flashing in his eyes. 1818. Come here with your ears. Ayako just smiled sweetly and waved to Tsunade. Following Ayako's whisper, Tsunade's expression changed from shock to anger and resistance, and finally to Sharu and waver. After Ayako finished speaking, Tsunade looked at Ayako in shock, her eyes full of complexity. You, she said in disbelief, unable to believe that Ayako would make such a sacrifice to keep Fusuke. Now, it's your turn to choose. Tsunade, don't forget. You are the one with the least chance. Because you are Brother Fusuke's apprentice. Ayako said calmly, her eyes full of calm, not shaken by Tsunade's shock at all. Hear the sound. Tsunade's originally shocked face instantly turned pale. She knew that Ayako was right. Even if one day, Feng will accept others. Because of his status as master and apprentice, it is basically impossible for Feng to accept Tsunade. So Ayako's plan may be her only chance. Okay, I agree. In the end, Tsunade gritted his teeth and agreed. See, Tsunade agree. Although Ayako looked calm on the surface, she secretly breathed a sigh of relief in her heart. In this way, the most important part of the plan is completed. At this moment, Tsunade's voice interrupted her thoughts. So, those two kids just now are. Tsunade said coyly, with a hint of concern in his amber gem eyes. Adopted son. Seeing this, Ayako felt helpless and could only admit it. At this time, Tsunade breathed a sigh of relief. After a while, a generation after Hokage has left. Not long after, a pretty figure appeared in front of the gate of Third Hokage house. Looking at the magnificent mansion in front of her, the girl with a pair of beautiful peach blossom eyes flashed a hint of shyness and shrinkage. Afterwards, she paced back and forth in front of the mansion with a red face, seemingly unsure whether to go in or not. The reason why she appeared here was because she was invited by the owner of this mansion, Third Hokage. At this moment, a gentle and charming voice suddenly sounded in her ears. You must be Yuhi Kurenai. Advertisement. You're here, let's go in and have a cup of tea. Hearing the sound, Yuri Hong was immediately shocked. As soon as she turned her head, she saw a charming face. Quote closing curly bracket dot 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 dot. She murmured stupidly, and her little heart beat a little in her chest. Even though they were both women, Yuhi Hong couldn't help but feel a little moved by the astonishing charm of the beauty in front of her. But soon, the girl seemed to realize the embarrassment in front of her. There was a trace of embarrassment on her face, which made her cheeks look a bit awkward. Quote dot 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 dot. She could only roar in response weakly, and obediently followed the beautiful woman in front of her into the mansion. After entering the mansion, Uchiha Ayako looked at the embarrassed girl in front of her. Face, legs, butt. Not bad. 21. Finally, Ayako's eyes rested on the girl's yurt that had begun to take shape, and a trace of satisfaction flashed in her eyes. Ayako's unobstructed gaze swept over Yuhi Kurenai's body, as if she was looking at the chips on the table in a casino. Soon, the shy girl turned red under Ayako's gaze. 43. 13. Yuhi Hong spoke nervously, as lovable as a frightened little rabbit. Don't be nervous. Call me Sister Ayako. I'll just call you Hong, you're so cute. Ayako said with a smile, showing a strong affinity like a confidant big sister. Are you Uchiha Ayako? Yes, you can just call me, Red. Yuhi Hong quickly blushed and said in surprise, a trace of surprise flashed in her eyes. Yuhi Kurenai has heard of Uchiha Ayako's name. Even though Ayako has lived in seclusion for a long time, she has become the idol of many female ninjas in Konoha with her reputation as a cage-level expert. Then, with Ayako's strong affinity, she got closer to the girl in just a few words. As they talked freely, the relationship between the two quickly became closer, and they even had endless topics to talk about. Unknowingly, the sky turned dark like this. Oh, the conversation was so exciting. Unconsciously it was already dark. It's not safe for you to go back alone so late at night. Tianjian should stay here. A strange color flashed in Ayako's charming eyes, and she enthusiastically invited the girl in front of her. Isn't this not good? The girl was obviously hesitant. It's okay. If you refuse again, you will look down on me, sister. Ayako said pretending to be unhappy. It's not like this. Then I'll stay. With just one sentence, the girl was left scrambling to explain. Very good. Let's go. Sister will treat you to dinner. Ayako smiled slightly and took Yuhi Kurenai's little hand. Quote dot 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 quote. Yuhi Hong blushed and nodded. Unknowingly, under Ayako's hospitality, she seemed to have forgotten the original purpose of coming to this mansion. At the same time, Namikaze Minato's house. Lord Leonwa, I'll give you a drink. Whirlpool Kushina held the little Naruto in her arms while respectfully serving tea to the cold, peerless beauty in front of her. After offering the teacup, Kushina quietly looked at the Hyuga lotus in front of her. The perfect face of lotus flower is undoubtedly the most outstanding work of the creator. It's a pity that while God gave Leonwa a perfect appearance, he also only left him a cold personality that was not good at expressing himself. No matter how many times I watch it, it's still so beautiful. While Kushina secretly looked at Leonwa, she secretly felt ashamed in her heart. As Mrs. Hokage, Kushina still knew something about the legendary Kunoichi in front of her. Although there are many female ninjas, there are only a few who can achieve Kage-level fame. Although she had known about the beauty of Lotus for a long time, after seeing it with her own eyes today, Kushina was still shocked by the amazing beauty of Lotus. I don't know what kind of man can get Master Lien to sleep with me. Kushina thought secretly in her heart, and at the same time she was a little embarrassed and didn't know how to speak. After a long period of silence, Kushina gradually felt a little unsupportable under Leonwa's cold aura. Lord Leonwa, I wonder what's behind your sudden visit. Uzumaki Kushina asked cautiously. Help. Leonwa opened her red lips lightly and said two words lightly. You mean, you need my help with something? Kushina, who was communicating with Leonwa for the first time, was obviously very stressed. She asked tentatively again. 11. Leonwa nodded slightly and made a slight nasal noise. I wonder how I can help you. Kushina was shocked. I don't understand how she, a mere housewife, can help Hyuga Renka, who is a Kage-level strongman. Leonwa naturally knows everything about her negative communication ability. Please give me flowers. She also had no hope of convincing Kushina in front of her with words. Advertisement. In this regard, Leonwa also came, prepared. She took out a letter from her arms and handed it to Kushina's hand. Look. Kushina opened the letter with a bewildered expression and read the contents inside. After reading it, the leader raised his head with a complicated expression. Lord Leonwa, I'm afraid it's beyond my capabilities. Then, Kushina said with some embarrassment. Because the content mentioned in Leonwa's letter was obviously beyond her ability. For children. Suddenly, Leonwa spoke again. Her glass-like eyes moved slightly, and her gaze was fixed on little Naruto in Kushina's arms. If Fusuke were present at this time, he would definitely see a hint of envy in Leonwa's eyes. At that moment, Leonwa calmly stretched out her hand and touched her belly, opening her eyes a little depressed. Hearing Leonwa's words, Kushina's expression became more complicated. Seeing this, Leonwa did not stay any longer. No need to hide it. Minato will understand. After leaving 8 words, Leonwa left Minato's warm home. Looking at Leonwa's leaving figure, Ju Shinshin's eyes flashed with a hint of Shang. Even a woman like Hyuga Leonwa can fall in love with her. Asking what love is in the world can teach you how to make love between life and death. Why? Kushina let out a long sigh, then looked down at Naruto in her arms and murmured. Lord Leonwa is right. At least, I should think about little Naruto. Konoha Anbu, Minister's office. Mr. Minister, here is a letter from you. An Anbu ninja handed a letter sealed with fire paint to Hitaki Tsukumo's desk. Tsukumo frowned slightly, took it and read the contents. After reading it, Tsukumo sighed. Where did this letter come from? Then, his eyes changed several times, and he asked the Anbu member in front of him. It's the Third Hokage house. Member Anbu replied. Hearing this name, a hint of complexity flashed in Tsukumo's eyes. I see. You go and answer her. I'm sorry that I can't do the things in the letter. Hitaki Tsukumo said with a solemn voice, a trace of determination flashed in his eyes. Hearing the sound, Anbu members were just about to leave. But suddenly I heard Hitaki Tsukumo's conversation change. But, I will refuse to serve as Hokage. Hearing the sound, the Anbu members looked shocked. Yes, at that moment, he immediately resigned and went to reply to the letter. The next day, the top floor of the Hokage building. In front of a huge long table, all the elite Jonin and many of Konoha's top brass gathered together. Only this time, there were some changes in the people at the table. Some of the people who attended the last meeting have gone to the new world called Wonquan for some reasons. At the same time, there were also a few new faces at the table. The first thing that stood out were the 2 extremely bright and beautiful faces. As senior, stay-at-home, Uchiha Ayako and Hyuga Renhua, they actually appeared at the table together at this moment. The 2 women were located on the left and right sides of the banquet room, sitting under the main seat next to the Hokage. As the clan leader of Konoha's 2 major ninja clans, Uchiha and Hyuga, both in terms of status and strength. Both of them are naturally qualified to take second place. And on the seat behind Ayako, a noble, graceful and beautiful blonde woman is sitting here with her arms folded. This action makes her already full bust even more visible. It is Tsunade, the current head of the Senju clan. When the 3 women were seated together, they suddenly seemed to have their own unique styles, attracting everyone's attention. In addition, most of the people at the table were familiar faces. Hitaki Tsukumo, Jiraiya and Hyuga Hiashi were all present. Among them, Hyuga Hiashi did not come to the meeting on behalf of the Hyuga clan this time, but came as a Hokage lord. At this moment, Jiraiya's eyes were fixed not far away on the other side. That's where Tsunade is. When Tsunade appeared, Jiraiya's eyes were like meeting a magnet, never leaving Tsunade's body. He seemed to notice Jiraiya's gaze. Tsunade just smiled politely at this old friend whom he hadn't seen for many years. She smiled at me. A trace of excitement flashed in Jiraiya's eyes, his heart was beating fast, and his hands could not help but clenched into fists in excitement. At the same time, Tsunade also noticed Hitaki Tsukumo next to Jiraiya. He also gave Tsukumo a friendly smile. Tsukumo nodded in response. Seeing this, Jiraiya felt as if a basin of cold water had been poured from head to toe. At that moment, the sour feeling in Jiraiya's buttocks surged out of Jiraiya's heart. Chapter 89. No glory or fame, just to win one person's heart. Advertisement. Wait until Tsukumo turns his head again. He then saw Jiraiya next to him like a Scottish hound, gnashing his teeth and staring at him with eyes filled with resentment. If today's occasion hadn't been extraordinary, I'm afraid Jiraiya would have pounced on him and bit him. Tsukumo. At this time, the door to the conference room was pushed open from the outside. An old man and a young man walked in from the door. Both of them were wearing a magnificent, god robe. The styles of their clothes were very similar, but the colors were slightly different, one white and one black. On the cloaks behind their robes, write the words, Third Hokage, and Fourth Hokage, respectively. The visitors were none other than Fusuke and Minato. The two of them sat down on the main seats, one behind the other. Tsunade suppressed the joy and excitement in his heart. Her eyes were bright, and her eyes seemed to be glued to Fusuke's body. Master, if it weren't for being in full view of the public, she might have been tempted to do something disloyal. Fusuke's gaze turned slightly and flashed across the faces of Ayako, Renka and Tsunade. At that moment, Fusuke couldn't help but have a flash of surprise in his eyes. It can be seen that the three girls have carefully dressed up today, and they look more beautiful and dazzling than before. Today's main focus is to establish the candidate for Hokage, rather than appreciating the beauty of the three women. Fusuke and Tsunade's eyes briefly touched in the air. He nodded gently towards Tsunade. Fusuke actually missed this disciple whom he hadn't seen for a long time. Afterwards, he withdrew his gaze and focused his mind on getting down to business. And the other side. Ooh, master looks at me. Tsunade said excitedly in his heart, a hint of joy flashed in his amber gem eyes. 570. Different from the last Hokage alternate meeting hosted by Minato. This time, in order to reflect the importance the village attaches to the next Hokage, this meeting will be hosted by Fusuke himself. Everyone probably understands the purpose of calling everyone here today. Several Hokage candidates have now returned to the village. The purpose of this meeting is to decide the candidate for 5th Hokage. Fusuke said with a serious face. Among the 6 previously selected Hokage candidates, Uchiha Fugaku and Nara Shikamaiki are both dead and unable to attend. The remaining 4 people are now at the table. Hearing Fusuke's words, all the Konoha shinobi gods present could not help but become serious. If nothing unexpected happens, next, Fusuke will give the content of the Hokage assessment, and the 4 candidates will go and perform it. The one who completes it first will win the final victory and become the Hokage. Third generation Sama, before the official start. Please allow me to interrupt for a moment. At this moment, Hyuga Hiyashi, one of the Hokage, stood up and said vividly. Hearing the sound, Fusuke nodded slightly, signaling Hiyashi to speak. The 2 Hokage Samas are at the top, and my colleagues are at the side. I think I'm not capable enough to be a Hokage. So I ask the village to allow me to withdraw from the Hokage assessment. Hyuga Hiyashi said calmly, without feeling the slightest regret for missing Hokage in his words. I see. The village grants your request. Fusuke nodded and agreed to Hyuga Hiyashi's request. The most valuable thing about people is self-awareness. The possibility of Hyuga Hiyashi taking over Hokage is even lower than Fusuke's voluntary comeback. He was originally just a runner for the Hokage position, and it was expected that Hyuga Hiyashi would withdraw on his own initiative. Upon hearing this, everyone at the table was not too surprised, and everyone was not surprised by Hiyashi's withdrawal. Since Hiyashi took the initiative, let's take this opportunity. Then let me bring it up by the way. Master, you know. I'm used to idle clouds and wild cranes, so I'm really not the material to be a Hokage. I also want to withdraw from the Hokage assessment together. Jiraiya suddenly spoke seriously at this time and also chose to quit. Hearing the sound, moderate discussions began to take place in the table. Most of the newly promoted elite Jonin and some ninjas who didn't know Jiraiya looked surprised. Most of the old people in Konoha were not surprised. Hero Jiraiya has become famous in the ninja world in recent years. He is also the disciple of the 3rd generation and the master of the 4th generation. In the eyes of many uninformed ninjas, he is the most favorable competitor for this Hokage. Unexpectedly, Jiraiya would openly propose to quit at this time. That's right. Fusuke nodded again and agreed to Jiraiya's withdrawal. Many years ago, Jiraiya had the opportunity to become a Hokage. It's just that Jiraiya has never been interested in taking the position of Hokage, otherwise it would not be Minato's turn to be Hokage. With Fusuke's agreement, suddenly, the only candidates left to compete for Hokage were Tsunade and Hitaki Tsukumo. For a moment, the eyes of everyone at the table were flowing back and forth between Hitaki Tsukumo and Tsunade. Advertisement. At last, most people's eyes stayed on Tsunade's beautiful and noble face. With a little thought, most people can easily guess who the next Hokage will be. After all Although Hatake Tsukumo is very powerful, he is also a high-ranking Anbu leader. But compared with Princess Konoha, Tsunade, her glorious background and identity are not inferior. The granddaughter of First Hokage. Grandchildren of Second Hokage. Disciple of the Third Hokage. The master uncle of Fourth Hokage. The entire family is Hokage. With these multiple identities, who else could this Hokage be compared to her? Fusuke was about to speak and continued to preside over the meeting. At this time, Hatake Tsukumo, who had been sitting silently, suddenly stood up. Third generation Sama, fourth generation Sama. Please allow me to withdraw from the Hokage assessment. Tsukumo spoke silently, his face full of calmness and determination. Hiss. Hearing the sound, everyone at the table took a breath of air. Everyone stared at Hatake Tsukumo's face in surprise. Certainly, among them are Uchiha Ayako and Hyuga Lotus. Upon hearing the news that Tsukumo had withdrawn from the Hokage competition, Ayako suddenly had a bright smile on her face. At that moment, there was an uproar at the table. Even though Tsunade's chances are indeed great, Hatake Tsukumo is not without a chance. If he is willing to fight hard, he may not be able to reach the top of Konoha and visit the Hokage. But he never expected that Hatake Tsukumo would throw away this lottery ticket, symbolizing supreme honor, in public. Actively choose to pass through the treasure mountain without entering. Hearing the sound, even Fusuke's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. Please rest assured, both Hokage-samas. Whoever succeeds fifth Hokage will have my full support. At this moment, Tsukumo expressed his loyalty again. His words undoubtedly once again stated that he has no ambitions for the position of Hokage. Call. New. Fusuke could only nod helplessly. After all, it made no sense that he had already agreed to Hiashi and Jiraiya's withdrawal, and was stuck with Tsukumo. With Tsukumo giving up running for the Hokage. This also means that the candidate for the fifth Hokage fell on Tsunade in an extremely dramatic way. Everyone turned their attention to Tsunade's noble and dignified cheeks, staring at the fifth Hokage, who was of noble birth and beautiful appearance. No one thought Tsunade would refuse to be Hokage. Even Fusuke thinks so. Unlike the original work, Tsunade at this time has neither experienced emotional trauma nor suffered from hemophobia due to the unfortunate death of his younger brother. Born as a Senju of the forest, and bathed in the glory of the Hokage from birth, her ideal, second, is to become a Hokage. Although for some reason, Tsunade ultimately missed the opportunity to become the fourth Hokage. But that's why Fusuke felt that Tsunade had no reason to refuse to become the fifth Hokage. Now that there are 6 Hokage candidates, 5 have withdrawn. Then of course there is no need to continue the so-called assessment. At this moment, Tsunade is what everyone expects. Thinking of this, Fusuke no longer hesitated. He cast his gaze on Tsunade, stared into Tsunade's beautiful amber eyes, and planned to announce the final result. Shao Gang, then. But as soon as he opened his mouth, Fusuke's eyes suddenly flashed with a bad premonition. Because he unexpectedly discovered that for some reason, Tsunade's gem eyes had a strange color at this moment. He had seen such a look once before. Master, please allow me to decline to serve as Hokage. Tsunade stood up suddenly and spoke to everyone in a firm and calm voice. What? Did I hear that right? Tsunade Haim actually refused to serve as Hokage. This is impossible. What is going on? As soon as these words came out, the room exploded instantly. Even Fusuke had a look of surprise on his face. Then, a complex look appeared on Fusuke's face. Why? He couldn't help but subconsciously ask Tsunade. Hear the words. Tsunade looked directly into Fusuke's eyes, with a trace of nostalgia and color in his eyes. Maybe I'm not mature enough. Finally, she pursed her lips and gave a reason that was not a reason. During the banquet, perhaps only Fusuke and Tsunade can understand the deeper meaning of this sentence. Afterwards, Tsunade didn't dare to look at Fusuke and just lowered his head. In the midst of an uproar, Uchiha Ayako raised the folding fan in her hand and covered the corners of her mouth whose curvature was obviously irrepressible. Fusuke silently looked at Tsunade who lowered his head and said nothing, and covered his head with a headache. No one would have thought of it. Advertisement. The vigorous and dramatic battle for the Hokage, which symbolized supreme power and status, came to an end in a dramatic situation. This situation has never happened before in the history of Konoha. But no matter. This is the reality. Even Fusuke has to accept this embarrassing situation at this moment. I wonder what expressions Fugaku and Uchiha Kagami would show if they knew about this scene. Some people even resorted to rebellion in order to fight for the Hokage. And some people abandoned their old shoes for the Hokage who fell from the sky. As the discussion at the table intensified, the situation became chaotic. Minato, who was still on one side, took the initiative to stand up and find a way forward. Everyone, squad leader Shidao is in danger. The current class president position of Jonin class is still vacant. We might as well take this opportunity to choose a new squad leader Jonin. Minato changed the topic at the right time, saving the awkward situation during the dinner. Yeah, 4th generation is right. Let's choose Monitor Jonin first. Some elite Jonin who were loyal to the 4th generation also noticed the awkward atmosphere on the scene and helped out one after another. For a moment, everyone showed complicated expressions and fell silent. A Hokage assessment meeting turned into a Jonin squad leader assessment meeting. In the main position, Fusuke was somewhat silent. Subsequently, Minato continued to be responsible for the selection of Jonin class leader. Fusuke rubbed his temples and began to think about what went wrong. Since returning to Konoha this time, Fusuke felt vaguely that something seemed strange. But whenever he thought deeply, he felt that everything was normal and nothing had changed. Vaguely, he seemed to feel that a large invisible net had been spread out and was heading towards him. At this moment, he was like a fish that had fallen into a net, and he didn't know who was holding the net. Fusuke raised his head and scanned every area of the table. His mind kept thinking about people who had the ability to lay out his plans. Tsukumo, Jiraiya, Hyuga Renge, even Namikaze Minato beside him. Until the end, Fusuke turned his attention to Uchiha Ayako, who had covered half of her face without permission, revealing only a pair of charming eyes. Call. After a long silence, he couldn't help but sigh. Even if his intuition and some signs indicate that Ayako is hiding something from her. Maybe the other end of the net is in Ayako's hand. But Fusuke knew in his heart that Ayako would rather hurt herself than hurt a hair on his head. Think before and after. Although he didn't know what kind of medicine was sold in Ayako's gourd, Fusuke couldn't take any proactive action because of the lack of evidence. At the moment, he still needs to concentrate on dealing with the unfavorable situation in front of him. Because Fusuke suddenly discovered that Tsunade and Tsukumo refused to serve as Hokage. For a time, Konoha was so big that it was difficult to choose a suitable candidate. Thinking of this, the four of them couldn't help but have a headache. After a while, this, Jonin Squad Leader Assessment Meeting, has come to an end. In the end, the position of Jonin Squad Leader was temporarily taken over by Hyuga Hiyashi, who had just resigned as a Hokage alternate. Soon, everyone at the table left one after another. After most of the ninjas left, U5.8 Chia Ayako kindly walked to Hyuga Renka's side and took Renka's little hand. What is rare is that Renhua did not refuse Ayako's approach. Giggle, Gang Jie Lan. 11. Let's take a step first. The charming Ayako smiled sweetly at Fusuke in a blink of an eye, and then prepared to leave with Renhua. On the other side, Leonhua, who was pulled by the rope, said nothing. But every few steps she would take, she would silently look back and glance at Fusuke with indifferent glass eyes. It looks like a kitten pulling open the door when its owner goes out to work. Let's go. Seeing this, Ayako reluctantly increased her efforts, and then dragged Leonhua, who was turning back 3 times in one step, out of the conference room. Until Ayako and Renka left, Fusuke, Minato, Jiraiya, Tsunade and Tsukumo were the only 5 people left in the room. Both Tsunade and Tsukumo had a tacit understanding and did not choose to leave. Both of them knew that matters concerning Hokage could not end so hastily. The problem has not yet been solved, and a solution must be negotiated. But after everything that happened just now, no one knew how to speak. At that moment, the table fell into a strange silence. Triple A. That, Master, Minato, Tsunade. We haven't seen each other for a long time, how about we catch up? It was Jiraiya who took the initiative to laugh twice and invited everyone at the table. Okay, Master. Minato was the first to agree with a gentle smile. Upon hearing Jiraiya's request, Tsunade's eyes lit up. Sure, she responded eagerly. This way, I can stay with Master for a little longer. After responding, Tsunade couldn't help but think silently in Shunan's mind. The bright color in Tsunade's eyes was clearly seen by Jiraiya, who had been observing Tsunade.